are in Baird Country.
We'll do a little clap.
Yeah. 2 claps. I'll do the clap.
Okay, you do the clap. I won't do the clap. It's all you.
That's one thing they taught us when we were on a loan, to do the clapping, because they wanted to make sure all the cameras were synced up, right? So they made sure that we like slated in every time like that.
Did they give you like a full film tutorial, like on
for like So we had like we had like a boot camp before, and they taught a lot about filming there, and then some of the people made it onto the actual show, some didn't.
Right.
And then after that they did like 10-day all intensive filming tutorial before launch.
So they basically made you a filmmaker? Like,
yeah, it was a good education, dude, because you're learning from like all the tricks from like the best people to like if you look at Joe Robinette, he was I had him on the show. He actually had like 30,000 subs when he started doing Alone, and then he came back and he actually tapped out really early, and it like lit a fire under his to like get out there and film a bunch more. Better. Yeah, and so what it taught him in filming, he went from like 30,000 subs to like 1 million after, and people thought it was the exposure he got on Alone, but it was really just his own hard work.
Insane.
Yeah, you know. Okay, well, here we are today. We have an awesome guest here. This guy is a bit of a behind-the-scenes magician when it comes to some of your favorite YouTubers. That's right. He edits some of my YouTube videos, some of my self-reliance videos, Zender Budnick, and some of these big outdoor YouTubers. His name is Kyle Poole. You can check him out at Kyle Poole on Instagram. He is an international travel photographer, a cinematographer. What's the word?
You can say cinematographer.
So a professional cinematographer.
Yeah, just cinematographer sounds cooler than videographer.
That
but it's
it
the
does.
Same thing.
It does. No, he's a lot. He's a lot of things. He's actually like me in a lot of ways. It's hard to really define what exactly his job is, but he owns a professional media company, and really interesting entrepreneur and talented in what he does. So, Kyle, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for pumping my tires.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to throw you under the bus in a bit, not right away. Right. You know,
we have to pump them to be able to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to butter them up a bit.
Yeah, you've been to some amazing, remote, exotic locations working, and I remember you're telling me this story. You're on this remote island off the coast of Yemen in the Middle East, and this place looks otherworldly. I've seen the pictures on your Instagram, and you've been there for a few days, and you're traveling, just kind of like looks like almost overlanding in a Land Cruiser. And it's early in the morning, and you see some of the locals. And I remember you kind of explaining it was a little bit like culture shock.
Yeah. So this island is so remote. Like, to describe it best, like in King Kong, when they go to like Skull Island, it just feels like this other world that you essentially just show up on. You're like, this is crazy. Yeah. So we'd been there for a few days, and I wake up in the morning and I just go like get some photos. It was this like foggy, misty morning, and we were like at this beautiful canyon, and I'm walking, and all of a sudden I'm just like in this little like village of people. Like, they're just living in and amongst the mountains, and like so like perfectly organic into the mountains. Like, I didn't even notice that like I walked up on them, and like and they just sat by the fire and just had a nice morning. But it was a bit of a culture shock just to like see people just in general. Like, I hadn't really seen that many people at that point in the trip, so to see people was kind of cool, I guess.
So what do you mean they were living in the mountains? Like, did they have houses there? Were they living in like caves?
Sort of like caves, structures. Like, a lot of it's just like you don't even really notice that people are living there. Like, it's so like just, I don't know, organic into the mountain, I guess. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, when you're driving by them, like there's like roads, but they're not like really roads. You can really go slow on the road, I guess. And
Cool.
It was strange because it was I'd never seen something like that. Like, all the other places we had been so far on that trip were like the towns, I guess, in Socotra, but like they weren't big towns, like just small towns.
So did these people live there all year long?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a lot of them lived there all year, and then some would go back to Yemen because a lot of the season there, like 5 months of the year, would be monsoons. So
Wow.
like it's pretty gnarly there, and they don't even allow tourism there for like half the year. Like, there's only one flight there per week for like half the year essentially, and they just opened up tourism like I don't know, a handful of years ago. Like it's not like somewhere that, like people normally go, I guess.
And that's what you were there doing with another one of the well-known travel YouTubers. What's her channel again?
Her name's Sorella Moore. So yeah, she's done like all kinds of travel and photography. She got really big from like self-portrait photography, and so she just does like tons and tons of cool videos and travels all over the world. So yeah. Like what a cool job. Like you're just traveling, making videos.
Oh, well, and that's eventually how you ended up, because you were doing some of the editing for her YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And then she ends up getting a deal to try to help promote tourism on this remote island. And then you came along to basically film.
Exactly. So tourism on that island would be so crucial for those people. Like they're not like the sustainability of like an ecosystem there, like of making money, like how do you make money on an island where like you know, like there's not a lot of tourism at all, so like creating tourism for such a beautiful location, but like the infrastructure there isn't like ready for like tons of people to come, so like only 3,000 people travel there per year.
They don't want it to turn out like the Yukon, like the Klondike Gold Rush, where everybody just came in and there was no food and everyone starved, basically. Because that place looks cool. Can you describe it a little bit?
So if you go on like the coast, like it's very different everywhere you go on the island. So like you get to the coast and it's like white sand beaches, blue water, and like sand dunes as high as you can see, like the size of mountains. And basically like when the monsoon season comes, the wind blows the sand into the side of the cliff face and creates these sand dunes, which is just like breathtaking, like to the point where like it doesn't even look like it's real. Like we got to this like freshwater spring that's coming out of this cliff with sand dunes on either side, and it's just there's no sound at all. Like it's just all you hear is the creek, and then it's running right into the ocean, and you're just standing there and you're just like, I feel so insignificant, like right here right now. Like it's just perfectly white, and like the cliffs are just like this beautiful shade of like brown in the back, and the sun setting behind it, and it's just like, whoa, like this is otherworldly. But then you get into the interior and it looks like it's like the Amazon. Like there's like red clay rocks and like, you know, freshwater springs everywhere and like beautiful trees. Like they have this type of tree there, and it's the only place that it grows in the world. It's called dragon blood tree. And they're
Wicked
so
name.
beautiful. Like the coolest looking tree. Like it looks like something you'd see like on like a, you know, African postcard or something. Like it was just so cool. And that's the only place they grow in the world. And there was this story. There's this story that like the reason it's named Dragon Blood is because a guy fought a dragon, and like the blood then grew the tree.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a place where they had legends about dragons. I thought that was more in like ancient China.
That's the only dragon legend I heard there, but like the locals were very passionate about these trees because like they're thousands and thousands of years old. Like,
Well, because they grow so slow, because it's essentially a desert, more or less there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of your photography, just incredible photography of the trees, almost like they almost, you know, they don't have a typical round top. They kind of grow up like a upside down triangle. Like there's a trunk upside down triangle and then flat on the top, and the leaves are on top of it, like facing straight up. And they're growing out of just doesn't look like very fertile soil. Like they're growing out of really cool, almost like sand and rock and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like they're just growing straight out of cliffs. Like just and like they'd have these forests of them, and like thousands and thousands and thousands of them. But like not one of them is growing out of dirt.
Wild.
And like it makes no sense. And then they have these other trees called bottle trees, which are very similar, I guess, but they look different. They're like kind of look like Dr. Seuss trees. Like they're like these big fat stumpy trees, and they have these cool little rubbery leaves coming off them, and like they all look completely different. Like some of them would be like, you know, huge thick, and then some of them would be like this thick. Like, and they're just kind of, the dragon blood and bottle trees are just kind of everywhere together.
Wow, that's super neat. And how did you get around this island?
So we did like with a Land Cruiser was like basically taking us around, but the island isn't very big, so like it really wouldn't take you that long to drive. If there was an actual road, it would just be kind of, you just boot across it probably in like 30 minutes.
Right.
But because it's so remote and like the roads were just like gravel basically, and you're climbing up mountains, down mountains, on a beach, off a beach. It would take you hours to get everywhere.
Wow.
So like half your day was spent driving to different locations, but the drives were some of the best parts because it was so beautiful driving through these locations and like seeing just like the culture of the people, and like we'd pick people up. So like everyone there hitchhikes because they know like the tour guides are like the best form of like transportation. So everybody's hitchhiking, and like we'd pick up like 4 or 5 people and they'd all sit in the front seat.
They just ram in there?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. And of course, people aren't speaking English on average, right?
No, we only had one or two guides that even spoke any English at all.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
and even like pop culture and stuff like that, like it's not going to resonate. Like they don't really understand that. So like slang and things like that, and like hand gestures, like you could get away with some stuff, but like for the most part, like it was pretty primitive in terms of speaking to people. Like the people there were so incredibly nice though. Like everyone was so welcoming and amazing. Like I can't even stress that enough. Like you're in such a remote area and you felt like you were at home the entire time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're bombing across rivers. You're, like, to me, that looked almost like an off-roading, overlanding type of adventure.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah.
we had a lot of rain when we were there, which isn't traditional. Like we were at the very end of the rainy season, but we did get a lot of rain. So a lot of the rivers got washed out. So they were just like, there's one part in the video and the guy just walks across the river and he's like waist deep and he's like looking, he's like, yeah, I think we're good. And then the truck just goes straight through the river.
Fun.
It's like up to the
Super
windows
fun.
in water.
Yeah. And so you're essentially on assignment. It's you and this other YouTuber creating captivating photography, still photography, I'm sure drone footage and good video stuff, everything. So you're having to be the still photographer and the video cinematographer.
Yep.
I was
And then-
going to say videographer, but I caught myself.
Cinematographer just sounds more official.
Sounds
I guess.
way better.
Yeah.
That's what I am, actually. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, you're a cinematographer.
I'm a
for sure.
cinematographer.
100%.
Yeah,
You got to say it with a
absolutely.
little bit of like, I'm a cinematographer.
I'm a cinematographer.
Yeah, so we were creating
That's cool.
content there. And we had some logistical issues that kind of happened on the trip. And I haven't really ever told anyone other than her, obviously. But we had a power bank that was going to be charging our equipment. And you're so remote, like there's no way to charge anything there. And the power bank got taken from my luggage at the Toronto airport, of all places.
Did they tell you when you're checking in, we're like, oh, you can't bring this? Or
No, because it was an automated check-in. So by the time I got to Abu Dhabi, where my connecting flight to Socotra was, it just wasn't in my bag anymore. And I was
Yikes.
flying out in like a few hours. I had no way of getting any other charging equipment.
Oh my God.
So we get there and I'm like, I have 3 drone batteries that last, 30 minutes roughly each. And that's going to have to last me like 10 days essentially. And then I also have 7 camera batteries and I have 2 for my monitor for my camera. And then everything else, I was just like, I kind of got a trickle charge stuff. And like, I was able to get like a car charger and get a little bit of a trickle charge, but like those drone batteries are so powerful. Like it takes so much battery power to be able to get them. So I probably had a total of 5 drone batteries for the whole trip. And obviously you just want to fly your drone the entire time. You're just like, you're in this remote area in the world that like very few people get to go, and you want to fly your drone constantly. But I had to be so cautious with like how much battery power I was using the whole time.
So your stress levels were super low when you opened your bag and realized that you traveled halfway across the world to one of the most remote and exotic islands in the world, specifically to be getting paid to capture it, and then you realize that might be jeopardized. Were you just like, oh, cool?
Yeah, I feel like I don't experience a lot of stress. Like,
Wow.
a lot. I feel like I live like a pretty chill life for the most part.
Good
And
for you.
just-
You should explain how you do that. Well, that'll be the next topic because
Yeah.
I could use some help.
I think coming from like a hockey background actually and being a goalie, your stress is just so high all the time.
Yeah.
And like essentially like you're just the reason you either win or lose every
Yeah.
game ever. So
And everything's your fault too.
everything's your fault.
And if you win, it's still not really your
you
fault.
could have done better.
Once in a while it is.
Right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
win like a shootout or something, then you might like,
Right.
But
Right.
so I think from that as well, like it just like my stress, like it's just everything feels like less than that.
I noticed from definitely being an entrepreneur myself, not that I remember when I started getting into it, I'm like, feeling really stressed out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out, and this is nothing. And I'm like, oh, how is it going to be? Like, how must it be for these like CEOs or these like, even like, imagine you're in Game 7 in the Stanley Cup. How do you sleep the night before, right?
I have no idea. Or like, imagine being like a UFC fighter.
Right.
And, like, you're getting into a cage, essentially like fighting to the death before they stop you to the death.
Right.
And you have to go fight someone and put on like the best performance in front of the entire world.
And then you need to sleep because you don't want to be tired before.
Right.
Right. So I find that that you learn to be able to cope with and deal with and mitigate a lot more stress than the average person.
100%.
So it sounds like you've managed to do that. Also, by the way, did you know that you could, so they didn't take your solar panels?
They didn't take the solar panel, but they took the battery power. So I wasn't able to use the solar panel. Obviously, like what could you hook it up to?
You know that you can actually charge the drone batteries directly out of the solar panel?
I didn't know that. I didn't even open.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said
I
that.
didn't even.
Now let's see the stress level. Son of a.
That's it. I'm leaving.
I cut that out. Yeah. So
But
I had the
I
same
didn't even
thing
open
happen.
it. I didn't even open it because I was just like I can't use it. So
Yeah. Well, this is your first time being familiar with it.
Yeah.
I had the same thing happen to me. I had the one cable through my power bank that I was charging it off the solar panels, and that broke. And I'm just like, oh my, and I knew, and I'm in the middle of the Yukon, and I have to be capturing this whole freaking thing. And I'm just like, it's ruined. Like I have X amount of battery. I'm just like, it's so stressful. I'm like, I knew I should have brought in a backup cable. I just didn't have enough time. I'm bungling around. But then I was actually able to charge. I have these little mini power banks too that I charge my GoPros with while I'm on the go from the case. And I might have been able to charge my drone battery. Don't quote me on that, but I was able to charge those mini power banks directly.
I'm just gonna say you didn't charge them because it's gonna make me feel better.
Yeah. So but no, I had mini power banks like this big,
right? And
then I charged the drone off them. But I was able to charge them directly, and like obviously it's not nearly as good as the big power bank. But there's probably, you edited that series. Yeah. There's probably one day where there was like I was using my backup camera and there was no drone footage. That was that day. Behind the scenes, I was just like a bag of stress. Like, oh my God, my thing! I should have filmed that. That would have been the most exciting drama of the whole thing, probably.
I thought about that too. I should have filmed that moment that like I got the bag and I was just like,
yeah,
this bag's a lot lighter than when I put it through in Toronto. And then I get it and I'm like, oh, like this is the worst case sscenario.
Right.
And I was very fortunate that like on my way to the airport, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go pick up some extra batteries for my camera. Cause like, who knows what could happen. And I went and picked up like 2 or 3 extra batteries. And I was like, I'm so glad I did that because I used every single one to like the last portion of the battery.
Always a good decision. I find that too. I'm like, thank God I got this battery. And they're expensive, right? So you don't want to spring because some of these batteries are like $250 for just one little battery. But when you're out there and it's supply and demand, man, that battery is worth
that footage is worth so much more than that battery.
Especially when you're at a cool ass place. Like who knows if you're gonna go back there, how many people there. I didn't even know this place existed. You know what I mean?
So when I found out about
I'm
it,
trying to avoid saying the name. Do you notice that? Socotra. Yeah.
When I found out about it, I didn't even know it existed either. Like I did a hard Google search on it, and I found like some photos about the trees and like a Wikipedia page about like what it was. And then I make like whenever I do a film, I make like a whole like document that's like very interactive with like facts about the place, like everything you need to know, travel to get there, when you can travel, best time to go, and I'll make like a whole thing about it. And so I made that, and then I started like studying it and understanding more, and I made a pitch of like what I wanted the video to essentially look like, what the feeling of the video, the types of shots I wanted, how I was going to film it. Just like fun facts about the island that like, you know, I found interesting, like the whole dragon blood tree thing and like the bottle trees, some of the places I wanted to go even on the island, like made a checklist of like just things I wanted to see that I thought would translate for the video the best. So I made this whole thing, and then I essentially like gave that to Sorel and was like, this is the video I want to make. She was like, yeah. That's great.
This is wicked.
Let's make the video.
She was right in on
so then we start planning, and you have to get a visa to go there, and like all kinds of paperwork done.
Because it's work, essentially, right?
Yeah, but it's also like we were actually going to Iraq after as well, which is another part of the story. We can get into that. But so you had to get like that kind of stuff. So you land essentially in Socotra.
Yeah.
And you walk into like where you would normally like have an airport. It's so small. Like, and they instead of stamping your passport because it's technically governed by Yemen.
Right.
If you got a Yemen stamp on your passport, like I wouldn't be able to go to the United States. So you get your visa stamped instead.
Right.
I don't know if this is like public knowledge if you're supposed to say that, but
I don't know. We're going to make this the Instagram reel.
So essentially you get your visa stamped instead. And like they kind of look at you like you don't want the stamp on your passport kind of thing. And you're just like I live 20 minutes from the United States. I'd like to be able to go.
Right. So they know that some people wouldn't want the Yemen stamp.
Right.
And they sort of ask you if you want it or not.
Like if you're from like Israel or like Egypt or places like that, it doesn't really matter because like they're friendly countries with each other. So like they're fine. But if you're like from the United States, like essentially the States have been at war with Yemen for a long time.
Right,
so
right.
you probably not a good look to go back to the States if you've been in Yemen.
Right. That must be tough for people that are Yemenis Americans who immigrated there legally and run businesses in the States.
100%.
You know? Like, God.
So one of the biggest takeaways from that trip was how amazing the people were there. Like we have this like closed perspective of like people in Yemen as like, you know, we're at war with them. So like they're the enemy and like they're these awful people and whatever. But like it couldn't have been more the opposite. Like the people there were like some of the most friendly people I have ever met in my life. Like we played like all kinds of games at night. Like when we were staying in our tents and stuff, we'd get together for dinners and like we were just essentially I taught everyone how to play Crazy Eights. We just played Crazy Eights every night.
Awesome.
I bring a deck of cards.
Classic.
With me. Yeah, everywhere I go, I bring a deck of cards.
Yeah.
And it was like my grandfather's deck from like Vegas back in the day. So we were playing Crazy Eights every night, and everyone's just laughing and having like the best time ever. And like, there's just no cultural differences at all. Like you're just people hanging out and having the best time.
What does that tell you about travel?
I guess you just have to look at it like with like an open perspective and like, you know, if you go into something, I feel like I've been always good at that. Like just like going into things and just like seeing them for what they are and like being open to things.
Who was it? Mark Twain or somebody said nothing makes prejudice disappear like travel.
100%. Like
right.
Even in Abu Dhabi, like when I said I was going on this trip, like a lot of people I know were like very skeptical and like, oh, be safe. You know, I've heard it's crazy out there, whatever. It couldn't have been more safe. Like I never felt at any point I was in danger or harm or anything. Like obviously there's a culture shock of like, I'm going from, you know, living in the city in Canada to like living in a tent essentially and just eating whatever's given to me and caught from the ocean.
And that's where you were. And so you're camping the whole time. You're
camping the whole time.
Yeah.
Like I didn't go into a building.
Socotra. Nailed it.
Got it.
God, I have a problem with that, eh?
Yeah. I didn't go into a building the whole time other than like in the airport essentially. But like, you know, there's a bit of a culture shock with that and like not having any washrooms, showers, things like that. But
so how cool would you say, like, so you go there. So this is your job.
Yeah.
You go there, you go on adventure. It just so happens that sure, you have a shot list. There's some added stresses which is so relatable to me because of the business side of things. But at the end of the day, you like creating, you like capturing things. You are doing something good for the people of this island to bring sustainable tourism with them that's going to better their lives. You're going to share this amazing place with other people, and other people that are going to travel there are, you know, it's going to break down walls of prejudice and all these issues in our world. So I'm seeing this whole picture of something that you're doing, and you're doing this as your livelihood. How cool. Was there ever a time when you sat there and you're like, I can't believe like this is what I'm doing for a living right now?
I think a lot of points in my life I've felt like this has just been like not my life, like that I get to do these things. And like that was like a full circle moment for sure. Like it was hard to believe that like I was doing this, like that I was chosen to do this, that I was able to do it, that I was able to help people while I was doing it, that like, you know, obviously creating tourism is just going to create more infrastructure for these people and create a better life for them, and hopefully then be able to like have them to be able to travel more and like maybe leave. Like a lot of those people I found out when I was there will never leave that island.
Wow.
They will never leave the
island. An island you could walk across in like, you know, a few days sort of things.
And they will never leave. Yeah. So like we were at one point, we were just like, I felt so insensitive when we were talking. A few of us were talking like, oh, like, where are we going to travel after this? Where are we going to go after this? And then we asked one of the guides, and he was just like, oh, never leaving.
Really?
And it just like
Did he have a hankering to leave?
I mean, like if they were to go, they could really only go to like 2 countries. Like they'd go to like Yemen, like on the mainland, or they could go to like Israel or Egypt or somewhere like that. Like you can't really go much further than that. So like, you know, like they probably would want to leave. Like we asked him, I was like, where would you want to go? Like if you were to be able to like travel anywhere, where would that be? And he was like, I don't know. Like he just had no comprehension of it. So like if you're creating infrastructure for these people, like they would then be able to, and maybe not everyone would travel, maybe no one would travel, but the ability to be able to travel would be nice. And like also create like, you know, more money and like income for their families and things like that. So
it's interesting though, because here I'm talking about how travel, like to a place like that, you might have this one idea in your mind from the media about how people might be or what you might see in a place like Saudi Arabia or a place like Yemen or whatever. Where's Abu Dhabi? Is that in United Arab Emirates?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
not Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so so you might have that. It might break down those walls and destroy prejudice, which is what they say one of the benefits of travel is. But yet you see these people that are on this remote island that don't even really ever even think about, they're not privileged enough to even think about it.
right.
Yet they somehow, and they're living what a lot of people would consider a primitive life, living in like caves and stuff. And the ones that don't go back to the mainland are sitting there getting hammered by monsoons half the year, but yet somehow they don't have these prejudice.
Yeah.
They are just totally welcoming and open to somebody that's completely different. They've never seen anybody like you before.
Yeah.
You
And I think
know?
like a lot of those people, they just understood how important, why we were there. Like how important it was to create the content for that. So like it gets shared on social media, it gets shared on YouTube and all these platforms, but also to create that tourism so that their families can, you know, essentially live a better life. But also like they live a pretty cool life too. Cause like they just, whatever they catch on the oceans, what they're eating that day. And like they get to, you know, do tours for people and like, you know, it's kind of just like surviving. Like they're just like surviving and living this like cool life. And like, I was so like just blown away by the whole experience there. And just like how friendly the people were, but also just like the nature of it. Like you're on the coast and you have like these white sand beaches with blue water. You're on the interior and it looks like you're in the Amazon with like dense trees and these trees that exist nowhere else in the world. And then you're on like the farthest coast and there's like waves crashing up against cliffs.
Wow.
Like it's just, it was so remote and crazy. Like I could never have imagined a place like that existed.
Yeah. I, you know, one of the things I deal with a little bit, and from looking at some of your photography of the island too, I'm just like, where is this? Like, I'm surprised they haven't shot a scene of Star Wars there or something. You know what I mean? Like, because it looks almost otherworldly, like surreal, right? But I'm somebody that goes to remote, you know, places, mostly in Canadian North and the Arctic and stuff like that too. And there is a sense of, you know, wanting to create sustainable tourism, but there also is a sense of the fact that like you want to do it in a sustainable, you don't want it to become overrun. Like I don't, you know,
You don't want to get a resort put there.
right. Or you don't want it to turn into like what like Banff is nowadays.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Which is like, how much money did I just spend?
Yeah.
And what did I really experience where, you know, when you're off the beaten path and in these kind of more backcountry places that maybe aren't so well known, you end up spending way less money and having like a better experience, and it's not like totally packed. Like, you know, they don't let people go up to Moline Lake in Banff anymore.
Really?
You can't drive there. You have to park by like Fairmont Hotel and take a bus up and a bus back, just because it was just like such a
So
like
congested.
absolute show. They had to do it
It makes
with
sense.
people. Like it, you know what I mean? Yeah, actually, that reminds me of some of the stories that you were talking about. So if you go back about Banff,
Yeah.
right? I don't know when the last time I was just there.
I was there
Yeah.
last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you told me that.
I
That's
try to
right.
go back
Yeah.
almost every year because like I
Yeah.
have friends that live there still.
Yeah.
I guess backstory is I used to live there.
Right.
And
so you moved out there. So you're you're getting up there now. You're 28 years
Yeah.
old, right? So, which is even more impressive. You know, I certainly wasn't doing the kind of things you're doing for business when I was 28. I was on my way, but I'm super impressed by that. But didn't it kind of start going back a bit? Didn't some of your passion for photography start from a trip to Banff when you were still a teenager.
Yeah. So
Can you tell me about that a little bit?
I had moved up to go to school
Yeah.
where I live now in Niagara. And
Right.
in the summer, I was not wanting to go back home. And then I was either going to just stay in Niagara or get a job and whatever. But a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm going to apply for this job at the Fairmont Banff Springs and you should apply too. And I'm like, okay. So I applied to the golf course and I got the job. And he ended up actually not getting the job. So I went out there by myself.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was his idea.
It was his idea. And
Yeah.
I did think about it in the sense of like, should I go? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to make him feel bad. But at the end of the day, I was like, I think I have to do this for me. And like,
Right.
backstory, I was a hockey player and I stopped playing hockey at this point. So I felt like I just needed to like do something crazy. And like, I felt like my whole life was dedicated to hockey.
The dream was over.
The dream was over.
You weren't making the show anymore.
Nope.
What level of hockey were you playing when you realized it wasn't going to be
I was playing
career?
junior. So I was, I was playing high level hockey, but I had some injuries and just like, I feel like I lost a little bit of passion for it, knowing that I wasn't going to play in the NHL and that, like what I had worked my entire life for just wasn't going to pan out. I needed to do something different. So that's why this trip to Banff, like in first year college, you're partying a lot too. So I moved there and I was just like, this would be a great place to like, I'll make some money, but also just be like partying and like.
So you moved to Banff kind of for the work, but also because you knew it was like a party mountain town, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. But you didn't really understand the topography of the area when you heard.
Very much
You knew
correct.
there was going to be parties.
Yeah.
But
I knew it was like a skateboarder town and like snowboarder.
yeah.
But it just didn't even process in my mind that there was like the most beautiful mountains there.
Right.
And that you're in like the Bow Valley, which is like
Yeah.
one of the more beautiful areas in Canada.
Yeah.
Obviously it's been tourized, but like, I mean, it's still like,
yeah, like there's tourists there, but man, those mountains and that scenery is just freaking epic, man.
so I remember landing in
Jaw-dropping.
Calgary
Yeah.
and then we drive to Banff. And as I'm driving in, I'm just like looking up at the mountains and like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is pretty crazy. Like, coming from like Ontario where there's not mountains.
No mountains, yeah.
And just being like I remember there was a mountain in my hometown. And it was called Murray's Mountain, and it was a hill, and it was a hill that people tobogganed down.
Right.
And that was what was labeled as a mountain. And now I'm seeing real mountains, and I'm like, no, that's a mountain. Like that's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm there and like just meeting people and hanging out with friends and partying and whatever. And a friend of mine's like, do you want to go climb a mountain tomorrow? I'm like, okay. So we go and do this crazy trip. Like we had to like bus to this other town, which was Canmore, hike from Canmore to the base of the mountain. By the time we get to the base of the mountain, like we didn't plan for this at all, by the way. Like this was like just a spur of the moment teenage
You had
move.
like a survival kit with you, like just basic compass, and what did you bring with you?
I think we had 6 beers. No food.
Amazing.
No drinks.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
water. Just 6 beers.
Right.
And it's like a scorching hot day.
Yeah.
And we're like, get to the mountain. It's like 5 o'clock, which like, if you know anything about mountain climbing, you probably shouldn't start then because it's
Right.
too late in the day.
Yeah.
And you should probably start in the morning probably, and then enjoy your day at the top of the mountain and then climb back down.
Right.
So we start like at 5 and get up there, and it's like dark by the time we get up there. And like, I remember taking a couple of photos on my phone and like just not really turning out that well. And like basically having to just climb right back down. Like you get to the top and just do a circle and climb back down.
What was the view like when you got to the top?
If it was light, I'm sure it would have been great.
Oh no. So you couldn't see anything.
Not really. Like
Yeah.
it was maybe light for like 5 minutes when we got to the top, but
Yeah.
like like blue hour, like it's not like
Right.
can't see that far, but I'm sure it would have been great. I've done that mountain multiple other times and like it was quite nice.
What mountain?
It's called Ha Ling Peak.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's not like a crazy climb by any means, but also for your first mountain ever and having no planning at all, like it seemed like it was pretty crazy. Now, I've obviously done way crazier mountains since then, but
Were you getting scared on your way back down that you weren't going to make it in time? And
yeah, because there was a bus that was going to take us back to where we lived, and we missed the bus. So that was the last bus out of town. So we basically just had to stay in town and scrounge all of our non-existent money together and get a hotel. And then
man.
we actually hiked back.
was
we
it
couldn't
a
afford
5-star hotel you stayed in, or what?
Sure.
Where did you manage? You just managed to find a broom closet you could rent, essentially.
Yeah, I think it was actually one bed between the two of us, and we just slept like foot to head. And then we hiked back to town in the morning because we couldn't afford the bus.
Yeah. So you walked from Canmore back to Banff.
Yeah, which I think is like 30 kilometers.
Man, so a misadventure. definitely.
A misadventure.
Right. So why, it's just funny because, so here's this kind of misadventure, but then weren't you back out hiking? Like how did starting out and it kind of being a bit of a shit show, a lot of people might have thought, oh, I never wanted to do that again. What was it about it that made you want to continue and try again?
Honestly, I felt like I kind of got ripped off from the hike a little bit because I didn't get to see what it looked like at the top.
Right.
And like the process of it was awesome. Like I remember being so tired and like, you know, like physically exhausted. So like the physical portion of it was awesome. And like just the adventure side of it, like we just created this, like we didn't follow like a proper path to even get to the mountain. Most people, like there's a parking lot at the mountain. You can drive to the parking lot, and we hiked like an extra 10 kilometers for no reason just to get to the mountain. But like that just intrigued me. Like it was like, okay, well, like, that's a cool way. It's a cool story. I'm still telling it to this day. And that was like, you know, almost 10 years ago. And I don't know, there's something about it that was just interesting to me. So then the next day, my friend was like, do you want to do another mountain? And I was like, yeah, let's do another one.
Nice.
And we just kept doing more and more, and they kept getting more advanced, and then we would get better equipment too. So like I actually got some hiking shoes. I got some like, you know, a jacket for when I got to the top because it was cold, and like, you know, a water bottle.
Right.
A granola bar maybe.
Right. All of a sudden you're starting to put two and two together. I remember I had probably a little more prep, but I was same thing. I was 19. I showed up in Banff, and we just driven like across Canada, living out of like the trunk, camping along the way. And my buddy woke up in Banff, and we were in like the park office, and they're like, where do you want to hike? And he's like, yeah, let's do the 12K hike.
Yep.
And me and my other buddy were just like, are you sure? But we knew like, well, if he's saying it, then we were like the more hardcore dudes. So we're like, well, if he's doing it, obviously
We can do it.
But then we didn't realize that he has no idea what he's talking about for the most part, right? So we're like, okay. And then here's these guys, same thing. Ontario boys never dealt with like a real mountain to this extent. And now we're in the freaking Rockies, and it's just 12K like this
The whole time.
And I remember we like, there's this like foreboding French Canadian guide. It's as we started the trip, he's like, where are you going? We're like, Elk Lake. He's like, you will not make it there before dark. I'm like, are you like the French Canadian Dracula or something? And I walk back, and it's like, you will not make it. There was like reverberating, and it's like, we're going like this and like this. At first there's like a trail, it's wider. We see other people, and I'm just, and I see people coming down, and I'm like, does it get flatter up there? Like, and they're like, no.
You
Like,
get past the trees,
never.
and it's just scrambling rocks. Like it's not even a path anymore. It's just like loose rock, and you're basically just like on all fours climbing up. Like
we didn't get it. So it sounded like your hike was like technical. Anyways, we got up to Elk Lake. This wasn't like really technical. We never got to like scree on 4 feet, but like close to it. And there was snow up there. It hammered snow, rain all night. My buddy, I think from elevation sickness, was like barfing all night. It was freezing cold. We got a fire going, and I fished for trout that were in water so clear they would look like they were suspended. You couldn't even see the water, and you just see these trout in the middle of the water out there floating in thin air. It was so still. And then we froze our asses off, and we had just to turn around and get out of there. So we ended up walking 24 kilometers in 24 hours. Insane. No hiking shoes, but it was like amazing at the same time, right?
It's so treacherous and awful that it makes it awesome.
Right.
Like you're like, no one's doing this right now. I'm the only one that's doing that. And that's what makes it cool. And I think that's what like made me fall in love with the hiking of mountains. And like, I think that summer I did like 15 maybe, something like that. Yeah. Varying in sizes.
Wow. Okay.
And then I actually went back there a year later, and I lived there again for a summer, and I did probably another 30. But I was like prepared that time. Like I went like I didn't just go there and was like, I'm just gonna party and just like skateboard and do nothing. I was like, oh, I'm going there because I want to hike more mountains, and I want to like live like the actual Banff lifestyle.
Cool, man. And so is that what inspired you to get into photography, those initial hikes in this beautiful kind of wild country?
100%. Because I worked on the golf course, so I would get up very early in the morning before anyone, and basically be at the golf course, see like herds of elk running through the golf course, take photos just on my phone. And this was even like before you'd really like properly edit photos for Instagram. Like you just kind
Right.
of just still posted like a Facebook gallery essentially.
You
Like
could only crop them into that horrible square,
Yeah.
and you can only choose like those filters they have on
Pretty
it, kind of
much.
thing. Yeah.
And like, so I'm just taking photos on my phone. It was some kind of Galaxy phone at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone was like saying, oh, these photos are crazy. Like, these photos are great. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
on my phone. I moved back and I go like see my family for Christmas and they bought me a camera,
Oh, cool.
like a beginner DSLR camera. And I just, as soon as I got it, I just left and I just walked to like this forest beside my house and I started taking photos at the forest. So then when I went back the second time to Banff, I brought that camera with me and I started just taking photos with the camera. And I have all those photos on a hard drive still.
Cool.
And like I looked back at them like recently and was just like, there was some good photography in here. Like, you know, obviously it was just not what it is now, but
Were you
like
shooting in like automatic or were you
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. I didn't even understand how to use the camera properly. And it was just like this kit lens that it came with. And I was like,
Was
this
it
is
like
the
a
best thing.
Canon Rebel or something like that? Or
It was a Nikon D3300.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
Yeah. I
basically
used to have one of those too. Oh no, I used to have a D300, I think. Even before that.
Yeah.
It was like a pretty bomb-proof camera. I
Oh, yeah.
remember it being like pretty rugged and heavy, and I wasn't so worried
You could
about it
change the
breaking.
lenses and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, this is great. Like
Yeah.
my dad, he had like some lens, like a zoom lens from like years ago, but it was a manual zoom lens, not even automatic. So you have to like actually like zoom it properly and focus it and everything. So I'd bring that with me. So I had this weird little kit camera that like I would just bring on these mountain climbs. And then I started taking proper photos on the mountains and people started wanting to go on hikes with me because I'd take cool photos of them.
Right on.
Then fast forward, I moved back
So
to,
they could post it on their Instagram.
right, and get like,
Yeah.
you know, likes and follows and
Yeah.
like people would think they're cool, or probably even just at the time, like it was just like my guy friends wanting to get like cool photos for their dating profiles.
Right. Let's
Realistically.
Hey, whatever, bud. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So then I moved back to Ontario, finished school, and I started just taking photography more seriously and just like then upgrade my equipment a little bit, get some jobs that are actually paying me. And
But it was through that nature, through that wildlife photography
Yep.
that got you interested. And did you think that drew you more into working with these like outdoor YouTubers, into editing some of their videos, like mine, for example?
100%, because I even grew up, like I was very outdoorsy growing up. Like I went camping all the time with my family, but nothing like mountain climbing until that point. And then be able to capture it like properly with a camera was just so special. Like I just post those photos on Facebook, and like even just like my family at the time was commenting, be like, these are amazing. Like, you know, probably just pumping my tires for the most part.
Yeah,
But
it's just like your mom making fake profiles.
yeah, probably. And then
Just kidding.
I remember just printing those photos like on little 4x6s and just giving
Yeah.
them to people like for free.
It's honestly, man, when you have a decent camera, it does make you. I kind of had a similar experience too, getting into photography. I never really kind of chased it into the like professional level. I guess a different sort of level than where people are actually like paying you to take photos. But yeah, being somewhere where you have a decent camera and where literally everywhere around you is like an epic photograph, it definitely makes you think, hey, maybe I'm pretty good at this. Like, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
it gives you that opportunity to capture the grandeur of it, and definitely sparks you know, some interest or excitement about the art form, you know,
For sure.
and travel and all that kind of stuff too. So after you did that, so then what, you decided you like photography, and did you go to school for it?
No, so I was in school for sport management and
Okay,
business,
yeah,
which
yeah.
was like when I was in high school, I was obviously like a hockey player and a goalie. I ran a goalie coaching company. And so that was the first real job I ever even had.
How old were you when you were doing that?
15 to like 17.
So you had a goalie like a goalie school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would
And then you
coach-
were running it yourself?
Yeah. So
Oh,
I would
okay,
coach
wow.
all
Yeah.
of the men's and women's minor hockey in my hometown of Orangeville.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I think I made pretty good money doing it for the most part.
Amazing, yeah.
And then I'd run goalie schools throughout the summer, like week-long camps, and a few times a year. And, you know, I paid to go to school, or like at least paid for like a lot of my schooling with that, and like my expenses and living expenses.
So you didn't have to take out big student loans like
No,
so
I
many
didn't take out a
people have
student loan
to.
at all.
Yeah, yeah. What was it that inspired you to kind of take this sort of entrepreneurial step, starting from kind of a young age?
I just never wanted to work for someone that like could tell me what to do, like tell me that like I had to take a lunch at a certain time, or like tell me I had to dress a certain way, or like have my hair a certain way. I used to have really long hair, so like I never wanted people to tell me I had to cut my hair.
Change.
Yeah,
Now it's
change.
like completely switched.
Yeah.
Long hair here, short hair here. Yeah.
So I just never wanted to like have someone tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd had like a few like really short-term jobs that like, you know, just wasn't for me. And like even at that time I was still working. Like when I was in Banff, I was still working for like a company. Like I was still doing stuff, but it always just felt like it wasn't me. And my goal was to like work for myself. I didn't know what it would be, but just for myself. So at first it was the goalie coaching.
Yeah.
And then it became photography, because I was like, oh, I'm actually like good at this, and like I can make money doing it. People are paying me to do it. I'm making almost as much with that. And I'm only doing it like, you know, a few hours a week, and I'm working a full-time job as well. So like I was able to like figure out that is what I want to do, and then work towards something. Like the goal was at first just to be full-time, just full-time photography.
Yeah.
Then it was to like, okay,
Which is not easy.
no, it's
All the cool things are like way harder to do.
yeah.
You know, because everyone wants to do them. So people are undercutting your price, doing jobs for free, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What was your angle to be able to, so you didn't even go to school for photography?
Right. So I just was like learning on YouTube and like just trial and error a lot of the time. Like I remember watching this video on YouTube. It just came up on like a suggested page. And like, I think the majority of content that I consumed even at like a younger age was YouTube stuff.
Right.
And it was just this like guy, and he was like in Iceland, and he was just making a video about Iceland, and he was talking about cameras and like just bombing these like Land Rovers through like the Icelandic rivers. And like, I just thought it was so cool. I was like, man, I want that guy's life. Like I want to do that. Like that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And his filmmaking was awesome. And he just had a great camera presence. And I was like, man, I want to do that. So I just started like watching his videos, and he taught like camera tutorials on like how to do certain things with a camera, how to get better with a camera, talked about gear. So like the biggest thing with camera stuff is like, how do you find out like what gear you need, or what gear you want, or what gear is good to have, what's bad. Like, you know, now it's more popular. There's so many YouTube channels that do it, but at the time I had no idea. So I was like, found this guy's channel, and he talked like pretty openly and honestly about certain equipment. And I was like, okay, well now I know what I can put my money towards. Like I can save up for things. At that point, I just didn't even know what gear I needed. I was just like, I'll just buy, like, I'll go to Henry's and ask the guy, be like, if I want to take a portrait, what's the best lens?
Right,
He's like, this. And I'm like, okay. And I just buy it.
Right.
Where like then now I have like an idea of like, no, this is why this is a good lens. This is what the camera does. Here's the manual settings for it. And I just learned through, you know, several YouTubers.
So you educated yourself essentially.
Yeah.
So you're like, how am I going to get to the level where I can start making money, where I can start charging people money, and I'm going to, not necessarily that you're thinking I want to make myself better than the rest, a cut above the rest, better than my competition. It sounded like you just wanted to get good because, you know, you knew that's what you needed to do to be able to be your own boss and do something that you're kind of passionate about. How long did that take you to learn all of this?
I feel like I'm still learning. Like I feel like I'm still getting better. Like I feel like it's just like an ongoing thing. Like it's never you're the most knowledgeable and you know this and you can do all these things. It's like I can always improve and I can always get better. And I think that's kind of the pursuit of it, which is interesting to me. It's just something that like I will forever get better, and I will forever have a different experience doing it. So it took
Technology
me a few years.
changes too, right?
For sure. So like, I think it's way easier now, to be honest, like, cause there's so much more knowledge about it. Like so many more people are making content about it. And then also like the equipment's way better. So like you can just go to any store and like pretty much get a camera kit and like create pretty cool stuff with it. Like I carry around a $1,000 camera with me. It's like this big and I carry it around with me everywhere. And
yeah, cool.
It's like my main photography camera for not commercial stuff, obviously. But
what kind of camera is it?
it's called a Ryko GR3, and it's like a street photography camera. And like a lot of those photos you saw in Socotra, because I had my cinema camera built for video, it was just so weird to take photos with it. It felt wrong to take photos with it because it was just so like microphone and monitor and all this stuff. It's like I'm taking a photo. It just felt weird and wrong. So I would use that small camera, and a lot of those photos were from $1,000 camera.
No kidding. Yeah, a small camera. So it wasn't a fancy mirrorless or
crop sensor camera. Like not even anything fancy at all. It doesn't even have a detachable lens.
Yeah, so cool. So you kind of can you remember a point where you remember the emotion, we'll call it, behind what was it that we're like, I got to work for someone else? Was it like a bad experience so I got to work for myself? Was it a bad experience working for somebody else? What like sparked that fire where you're like, I really got to be an entrepreneur. I want to be my own boss. I want to start my own business. Was there anything at the time, thinking back to when you were a teenager and you started that goalie business, or did you think, hey, this is cool, I'm going to try this out? Or was it around that time when you're like, I want to somehow be an entrepreneur?
I think there's two really clear ones that come up. I'm sure there was more like throughout like the years that like I just won't be able to remember, but there was two clear ones. When all of my friends had jobs and they all had them at like McDonald's and like fast food restaurants in high school, and they were being able to like buy clothes and like dress cool and like, you know, do things. And I was like, I want to be able to do things. I wanna be able to dress
That's always
cool.
nice. Yeah.
So
being cool.
I got a job actually at McDonald's, and I worked there for 2 weeks. And I remember my first shift, it was like a graveyard morning breakfast shift on a Sunday morning. And I'd never worked before. So I like go to this job and I just get slammed, and I'm just like overwhelmed and stressed, and people are yelling at me, and I hated it. And I worked there for 2 weeks, and I ended up quitting because I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't like it. I'm just like stressed about it. But I was like, I still have to make money. I want to make something. So I started like reaching out to like local hockey teams and being like, I'll coach your goalies. I'll come just out for the practice, pay me like $40, and I'll just come out on the practice, and I'll just work with your goalie, because as you know, being a hockey player, the goalies don't get any attention ever. You're just basically a target
just
during
take
practice.
slap shots at them.
You're just getting
It's like somebody,
in the
it's like
head.
you're someone's little brother.
Yeah.
Everybody's like,
The
you
whole
go
time.
in net.
And then you're in the game, and it's your fault if you lose. So
Right.
You're not getting any coaching. So
Well, I remember Martin Brodeur, you know, most wins of any goaltender in NHL history, beat Sawchuk, right? And he decided to be a goalie because he never had to come off,
yeah,
right? So you get to stay. You don't have to take a shift and go off the ice. You're on the whole game.
you're on the whole game.
Yeah, so that's one cool thing about it, right?
So yeah, that was like the big thing. I wanted to be able to make money to like buy stuff. That's like a teenager. You want to be able to like, I want to have a cool hat. I want to have some clothes, and I want to, you know, put gas in my car. Like I want to, you know, be able to do things. So that was the biggest thing. And then later, after I moved back from Banff, I was working for Mercedes, and I just remember, and I don't want this to sound bad for anyone, but I just remember seeing people that had been working the same job for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And just, they would come into like, I worked in the parts department, and they would come in and get like their parts for like an oil change or whatever. And they'd complain about their wife. They complain about their kids. They complain about their family, their job, their life. And I just remember thinking like, if I stay here, this is going to be me. Like I'm going to be this guy. Like, and it was a comfortable job, like pay wise, like it was, I could have worked there, you know, long term, and probably had a somewhat fulfilling life, but it just was so, it felt like I was going against the grain to do that. Like I'd already owned a business, and I was like a teenager, and like I was able to make as much money or way more than my friends doing that.
I did like lawns and snow shoveling and stuff like that, but never really made okay. But like nothing compared to what you were doing with the goalie school. I don't think like you're working a lot, getting a lot of business, able to pay for your school. Like that's pretty substantial, you know, but you just basically monetized that skill that you had, which happened to just be something you're good at because you're passionate about it and playing ice hockey. Right. And you know,
and it just came natural. Like I would go like coach before I went to school, and I would go coach on my lunch. I would go coach after school. And then I got a job after school because I did want to still make more money, and I had more time. So I was like, I'll get a job. And then after the job, I'd go and coach again. And I was playing hockey at the time, so I was just so busy. Like I didn't like go to a lot of high school parties or anything like that.
Right.
Like just because I was so busy, like trying to make money, and like I just got obsessed with like the idea of making money. And then when I worked at Mercedes, the same thing. Like I would, before work, I would go and do photo shoots. During my lunch, I'd edit them. And then after work, I'd do more. And it was just like every day was like that. I'd call in sick just to go and do photo shoots or video shoots. And it just like kind of just started making more money than my job.
I used to smoke pot in my buddy's basements at that time of my life. I feel like, but it was.
Well, I did that too, but
yeah. Well, not as much as me, but I remember that you know, just having that sort of after work or whatever, hanging out and trying to get something going with my friends, whoever was there. Let's start this, let's do that, like, and just for kind of years on end, just ending up kind of nothing materializing. And I really did used to, you know, smoke weed like probably almost every day at one point, but it wasn't really that necessarily the weed was bad. It was just like all I was doing was not chasing after any of my goals.
Yeah.
You know, so during this point, like I look at your story and I'm like kind of like almost jealous that you are able to have the drive to just turn that kind of your lifestyle into this positive thing. And what eventually happened to me in my in my 20s, when I was kind of doing what was, you know, more or less, I wasn't hanging out with like bad people. They're all fun people and stuff like that, but they had other things going on, and I knew I had to kind of break out of just hanging out on the on weeknights and not really using the time away from my job to sort of build to what I wanted to get. And so that's when I started, you know, getting into doing all these expeditions, and then I would plan,
which are insane,
expedition.
by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like absolutely, like
Yeah.
being like editing and working on a lot of the projects, like it is just mind blowing to me. Like some of the stuff, and I know I text you it, and I'm like, dude, what? Like this is the most insane thing ever. Like makes my mountain climbing story just seem like the most insignificant thing ever. Like
What? Which one sticks out to you as particularly crazy when you were editing some of my Ungava stuff?
I mean, that's like recently, like because we're working on something with that. But like, I mean, like every single one, like from the first time I started, I'm like, this guy's insane. Like the stuff he's doing, like the distance that you're covering, like everything, like even just like
Thanks, man.
camping and everything. And then every single time I've edited something, I'm like, I pick out something new from it, and like. For sure, the Ungava one now, like that's the craziest one I've worked on.
36-day solo Arctic winter. Like I basically walked across Quebec, like Arctic Quebec. You know,
just that one. I think I texted you. I was just like, dude, like I don't know how you've been doing this, did do this, any of it. Like it just like that. Just being cold for that long is insane. Walking that distance is insane. Putting them all together and then not having food and all that was just like. Man,
took a lot of balls.
Yeah, I'd say,
you know, like a lot of guts to just get out there and do it and plan for the, you know, plan for the worst, hope for the best. But it was, essentially I just found this passion for doing that. And then it almost like I started trying to get sponsors, and I started trying to plan these trips and and then I started trying to get like writing and photography, mostly writing articles with photo support, which is kind of my background. And I started trying to pitch these magazines to write my stories. Like I didn't know how to write that well at the time. I was just getting started, and then all of a sudden I had more and more to do, and I was doing that, and like essentially I went from a pothead to an Arctic adventurer. But it was, you know, it wasn't like because of like, you know, it wasn't necessarily because of the weed I was smoking. It's just because of what I was doing. I just found that passion, and then I knew that what I was doing before wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go. And all of a sudden, sort of like what you're saying, you get something and you could see where it could get you. If I just get this done, I could get there, and it becomes like this exciting journey. All these little kind of victories you make along the way, doing something that you're passionate about. And after that, I mean, obviously you want to make money at it, but I think if you're just going to try to be a professional photographer just to make money, the amount, or doing what I do, you know, a professional adventure and trying to monetize it through filmmaking and all this kind of stuff, podcasts, hopefully more than my mom listens to this, you know, but, you know, I feel like there's no way that unless you're like passionate, unless you're exciting, the chase excites you, there's no way that you're going to be able to be successful if it's just like you just want to make money, because it's going to take so much of your time, right?
And just so much out of you.
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to just become the person you want to be. Like essentially, like I think a lot of people have asked me like, you know, if I'm going to get into photography, like, what do I do? And I'm like, you just have to make it your whole life. Like, it just has to be you. And same thing with adventuring. Like, it just has to, you have to be the adventurer. You have to be the guy. Like, you can't, like, you can fake it until you make it. And I like and don't like that saying, I guess. But, like, you have to just be the person that you want to be. And just, that's who you are now. That's your new identity. So, I think when I was a hockey player, I just was, I'm going to play in the NHL. And obviously, like, you know, physical limitations to that. Like, I didn't end up doing that. But then I was like, no, I want to be a photographer. And I think I've always wanted to be a photographer. I've always wanted to make videos, and I've always wanted to create content. How am I going to do that? What's my path look like? And you set like a goal for yourself. The first goal was, I want to be full-time. How do I get there? Okay. Now that I've gotten full-time, what's my next goal? Well, I want to buy a home. I want to get to that point. And what's past that? Like, well, I want to, you know, be just creating content for myself, and then have a company working on behind the scenes stuff. And like, maybe that's like the 10-year goal. But like, I think having those like lofty goals that seem like so daunting that you'd never achieve them is how you achieve them. Like the most people don't fail at something, they just stop doing it. Like you don't actually fail at the act of doing it. You fail at the path to get there.
You might fail one little battle, and it doesn't mean that you lost the war.
Exactly. Like if I had stopped every time I felt like I wasn't a good enough photographer, like I never would have made this.
Right.
But like I just outlasted people. It's like the whole alone thing. You just outlast people. Like
100%, dude. You
it's
know,
a survival thing. Like I was like, this has to be my life,
Right.
or I'm not going to survive.
right. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily true, but it's like if you make it like feel that way, then it's going to be true. Like that was the only option. I gave myself no other option.
Burn the boats.
Burn the boats.
You ever heard that saying? Yeah. It's like you pull up to take over the island and you burn your boats so that you have no way. So you have to win. You can't retreat no matter what, you know? Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting, man. Okay, so you're in your 20s, you know, you have a successful business. Sorry, this is probably going to be challenging for you because I know that you're a humble dude, but this is the truth. All right. You edit videos that have received well over 100 million views. You work for some of the most inspiring YouTubers like Baird Adventure.
The most inspiring.
Yeah. Probably the best
coming up.
One of the best ginger YouTubers as well.
For sure.
Which is, you know, it is what it is. We got some amazing stuff going. You also were working with Myself Reliant. You're working with Xander, all these amazing people. You run a media company. You bought your own house. Now, what would you say to people that are in their 20s, maybe their early 20s, which isn't that long ago for you, being in your early 20s, that you hear so much of it now? And how long ago did you buy your house?
This year.
This year.
Like
so
2023.
2023. Yeah. So what would you say to people, because you hear this again and again, to people, especially in their early 20s, with real estate prices? I'm never going to be able to buy my own house. I'm never going to be able to do these things, which were at one point almost, a common pass for most people in our country, is to, get a good job or make a decent living and get a house and follow this.
And then have a family, and it's kind of just like that natural path that
right. But now it seems like out of reach for so many people. I don't think getting that one stable job is necessarily the way to go like it was. I don't know if it ever would have been right for me, but you could be like a bit of a inspiring. I see you being inspiring for some of those people that are of that age, to say, hey, in 5 years I could be doing what you're doing. Is there anything that you could, any advice you could give to people kind of in their younger, in their early 20s that might help them with that path in this super challenging, world that we live in when it comes to real estate, when it comes to the economy and inflation, all this kind of stuff?
I think that I would have been in the same position. Like 5 years ago, I was just like, I'll never own a home. Like I'll never be able to buy a home. But then, because I was focused on my passion, like I was focused on photography, I was focused on video. And then once that became like the full-time thing, I had to create a new goal. So my new goal was to buy a home. And I know a lot of people have the goal of buying a home, but they don't take the steps to achieve it necessarily. Like I lived like very frugally at the same time. Like, I went through like a pretty long breakup period with like a partner that I was with for a very long time. And, in that same time, like I then bought a house at that time. So like
by yourself,
by myself.
right.
Which again, I'm just so fortunate that I was able to do that. But it was like, I put everything into being able to buy the house. Like it was so important to me to buy it, and like to have a home and to have a home base and to have something that like felt comfortable for me to be able to like edit from home. And like, I made it like very clear, like the type of home I wanted to buy was like a little bit more in the country. Like I live in the city, but I'm like 10 minutes from the city now.
The city as in near St. Catharines.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a big,
Well, the Niagara region is it's pretty big now. I mean, and I work in Toronto a lot. So like I'm there a lot, but I wanted to live like just outside of that and like live, like have a little bit of property and have like a backyard and stuff. So like I was obviously limiting my options in terms of like what houses I could even buy for that. Yeah. But it was important to me. So I had this goal of like, this is like type of house I want to live in. The house I bought's not like the perfect house. Like it's not, maybe my end goal house, but it's a step in the right direction. I got my foot in the door. Like I worked with a great real estate agent with it. And like, I'm just so proud that I was able to buy something, to be able to call it my own and make it my own. And I just painted it. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. I can paint my own house. Like, sweet. I can make it look how I want. So I guess the goal like was just to be able to get the house. And like, I made every single possible move to be able to get it. So like, I focused all my energy on it. And like, I even like had to pay more tax in the end, like not on the house, but on my business, because I had to wait an extra 2 years because I didn't want to make it a corporation just yet, because I had to keep it as a sole proprietorship for that reason. So it was just like everything I did was to be able to buy the house. So I guess like just focusing all my energy on that, saving my money. And
so you weren't just blowing money shopping on Amazon for shit you didn't need?
No. And like, I think even to the
That's
point,
something I do sometimes.
I do it now.
Especially camera equipment, buddy. It's easy to freaking to drop a few bucks.
So I was thinking like, at the point where I am in my career, camera wise, video wise, like that, I was very under geared in terms of like, you know, people who would be on the same level as me, I guess, doing the same amount of jobs and things. But I just got comfortable with the gear that I had. I didn't feel like I needed to upgrade. I didn't put a huge emphasis on like, oh, I need to have the nicest piece of equipment. I need to have the newest thing. I need to have the best lens. I need to have this. I'm like, well, I know I can get the job done with these things and do a really good job. So I didn't have to spend like an absurd amount of money on like all this crazy equipment. I was just able to use what I had. And I feel like now I can maybe upgrade equipment at this point, but like I don't even need to. Like I don't have a reason to. Like it would just be like a want, not a need, I guess. And just living with the wants and not the needs.
Living with the wants and not the. I don't know, dude. It looks like you. It looks like you do some pretty. See this? Okay, so when I look at your Instagram page, I see you like sometimes. Yeah, you're in these cool, remote, exotic locations. Then the next thing you're in like a club, a bar with like these hot chicks and like expensive booze, and you just look like a pimp out there. And then I'm sitting in hearing from you that you're like living below your means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because you're a photographer, you're capturing that lifestyle. So you're finding a way to essentially do these cool things, like through art, through your own abilities to do these cool things, make them kind of part of your business, have that experience, but also the way I see it too is also make those things potentially more meaningful. So you're going to this club, but you're let's say, because not everything you do isn't just travel photography, right? You're photographing models.
Yeah, I do commercial videos. Yeah. I'll do like actual commercials, I'll do documentaries, things like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're going out to like a cool nightclub establishment where there happens to be very attractive women, and there happens to be, looks like a classy joint, right? And you're there, but it's also, you're there not just blowing all your money and winding up with a hangover. You're actually there experiencing it from a kind of a business side, which is like even more of a boss move, if you ask me.
Yeah, like I don't spend any money when I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm virtually sober when I'm there. I might have like one shot or something with the DJ, but like
that's cool already.
Yeah. But like for the most part, I mean, I'm just like going there as like purely like a money exchange. Like that's like for me, like a monetary gain. Like I'm going there, getting paid, and going home and going to sleep. I'm the last one to get there and the first one to leave.
Going to sleep by yourself, or are you just going to... No, we don't have to talk about that. So it's funny because I feel like, I want to inspire people to do these things too. But it's interesting because there's somebody right here. We talk about your Instagram at Kyle Poole. People might jump over there and be like, well, this guy's just like, balling. But then when I'm sitting down talking to you, you're like, I'm frugal. I'm saving my money for a goal. Right. And I kind of a little bit worry because I really want to inspire people. I want to show people the magic of like nature and inspire them. Not to necessarily go and do a flying canoe trip solo in the Yukon.
Right. But just to get out into nature.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe even just like clean out their garage. You know what I mean? Like get up and get up and do something. Right. But then, probably people might look at my social media. And this is one of the problems with social media and be like, well, this guy's obviously like a trust fund baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's obviously has a huge trust account, and he's just like, here's $10 million, and he's just doing all these fun things, not realizing that like there's an enormous amount of calculation and business
Yeah.
and sitting down at the desk and emailing and sales, like, you know, talking to people and trying to find solutions for brands that I could help them sell more stuff. But you're not seeing all those, I don't put, videos of me typing like, oh no, maybe I should say that differently, right? Like that's
Right.
not good content. So you just see the end excitement.
You see the end result, which
Right.
is like, essentially what you're wanting people to see.
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, like, of course I want to portray a certain image on my Instagram. Like it means I get higher paying jobs. Like at the end of the day, like if I post really bad, boring content, I'm not going to get any cool jobs. Like,
Right.
The whole thing is to get people to part ways with money. And like, if someone sees your Instagram and they're like, or just website or whatever, and they're like, wow, this guy does amazing work. They already have a trust in you just from that. And then you post like regularly, you post good content, you have a very clean aesthetic. Like people are just, it's so easy to part ways with money opposed to like having to be like, oh, I don't know if I trust this guy. I don't know if he can do the job properly or whatever. If they just see your page and they're like, wow, it's just so clean, consistent. Like, yeah, of course, this is a
It's
no-brainer.
a better marketing tool,
Right.
right?
It's essentially just a marketing tool. Like,
Right.
of course, like I am doing those things and I'm living that, but I'm also like not posting a ton of things that I do. Like I don't post any of the YouTube videos that I edit for people because one, it's just like,
You're the behind the guy. They want to pretend like they edited it themselves.
of course. And like,
Right. Well, now the cat's out of the bag here. Of course, I still, for the record, have
You still
edited.
do, yeah.
Edit. Tori's done a good. She's editing our series now.
yeah, I don't
and
do
all that.
everything by any means.
No, but the stuff that you have edited for me has been doing great. And I see, okay, well now, and you're talking about parting money. Like, I was the one who reached out to you, right? And like I talked about earlier, I probably could have talked you down at first. And I'm like,
Probably,
no, I need to pay you more because I want you to stick around. Because if
But
I
it's funny because that's the same amount you still pay me, and
Right.
it's sustainable for both of us. And
Right,
it's,
good.
It's good. So it's
Good,
like
yeah.
I don't need to make more, and that's like the whole thing. Like I think a lot of people are like, no, I need to make this much on a job, or I won't go less than this, and it's like, how is this going to serve me? Like, am I going to be able to get more jobs from this? So like, am I going to make more money in the long term? So maybe I can charge less for this particular project. Am I going to be able to work with this person long term? So therefore, in the grand scheme of things, I'm getting more money and it's more sustainable for me. It's a stable piece of income for me. That's the other thing with being an entrepreneur is like you don't have a stable paycheck. Like
Right.
whatever you make and whatever you put into it is what you get out of it. So
you got to be hustling all the time. Nobody's gonna save you and hand. You don't have the next
no
thing
safety
coming
net.
up behind. Zero. Yeah.
zero safety net. So like that also pushes you and enables you to work way harder because you physically have to do more to then have a sustainable or feel like you have to at least like maybe like on a per job basis, like you'd make more than a regular job, I guess, but like maybe not either. So
Well, for me, but it's been a win-win because I see you, like I'm sure that the money I've given you as an editor to do what I consider to be amazing work for me, some of the videos have freed up my time to go shoot more, do more adventures. Some of the videos that you've cut for me that I would have never even got around cutting, like the one that you cut A Year in the Wild.
Yeah.
With all my best stuff. I never would have even been able to find the time to do that, but you did it and sure had to charge me, a bit more than usual because it's more expensive, but I ended up making more off of that. So most YouTubers they'd be bigger than me before they brought on an editor.
for sure.
But because of the challenges in having to spend of my channel and doing these longer trips and having so much to edit and having to like so much, I have the opposite problem as most YouTubers. Like, I don't have enough footage. What's the next trip I'm going to do?
No, you
Me, I'm
definitely
like,
don't.
how the hell am I going to get through all
don't
of
have
this
that problem.
footage? Yeah. I have like the opposite problem, right? But at work, it's just been such a win-win for me because, some of the videos you've cut, and sure, some of them I've thrown, well, why don't you try cutting this? Why don't you try cutting this?
Right.
But the ones that stuck did great and essentially paid for the ones that maybe didn't take off as well. Like I remember the one that I got you to do for me was the fishing highlights one. Like it was like, it did okay. It's got like 20,000 views. Over time,
It
anything
didn't do
does
what
well.
we thought it was going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But that didn't matter because, you just have to keep the face and keep working. And
Yeah.
here, obviously you're managing to take the money that I pay you and do something positive with helping you, and it's also helped me. So that's, I think, is when you're saying you're getting people to part with money, it's hard to get people to part with money. I deal with the same thing all the time, but you're also helping them make money.
100%. And like, you know, sometimes it's not even directly them making money, but over the long term, like maybe it's not like YouTube specific, maybe it's more like a company. They're paying me to make a commercial or something. Yeah, they're not just getting paid right away from that. Like it's not like they're just getting that money back, but they're going to have more sales for their item that I'm shooting or whatever it is. So therefore they're going to make more money. So I have to get them to part ways with the money. And that's just creating the trust. Like, you know, obviously going back to the Instagram thing, you show like a certain image on Instagram and like, you know, I don't post even half of what I do, but the stuff that I do post, it's essentially more that stuff I want to do more of. And also the stuff that like, I think would benefit my business the most. Like at the end of the day, I probably wouldn't even use Instagram if I didn't have like a business. Like I don't have any other social media.
I know, that's true. Yeah.
So like I probably wouldn't really use Instagram or social media. I would just probably just like live in the woods somewhere and
right in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
So pretty me too.
But if it's benefiting my business,
I like sharing and inspiring people for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is definitely, there's that connection.
Yeah. Like my family has a property, like a cabin, and we bought like, I think it's 80 acres roughly, or 88 acres.
Nice, yeah.
And it connects to 500 acres of like crown land.
Crown up sort of Bruce Peninsula way.
Yeah. And so we just go up there. We built a cabin, go up there in ATV and like camp for a couple of days. Even in the winter, I'll snowshoe in, and it's just like my little like safe haven, like my little peaceful spot, and like no one knows it exists. And
so you love the bush, you love the outdoors, you love natural, cool sight, and so you probably could have made more being a wedding photographer on paper. You probably a lot of people. But could you have made more if it's not because you always would be like, oh, I want to be doing that. Would your heart have really been in it?
I think I would have made similar. Like it wouldn't have been. Maybe it could have been more. Maybe it would have been less. But like, there's also like a payment of like fulfillment of what you're doing. Like if you're not being fulfilled by what you're doing,
and nothing wrong with weddings. Some people love it.
Oh, for sure. Like people love that. And like for me, like I don't mind doing it like here and there, but there's other things that I find personally more fulfilling than, you know, shooting a wedding or even photographing a wedding. Like some of them are cool. Like some of them, I went to Banff and shot one, which was really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that was awesome. And I shot like a cool one last year, but for the most part, like
that wasn't the YouTuber guys one, was it?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think I probably could have made similar money or probably more with wedding videography or something like that, but it's not as fulfilling for me. So like the payment of fulfillment, like I work with this cool biker cafe, and like I've been working with them since I like started, and like we create like such cool catalogs of photos and videos, and like I just like doing it. So like for me, it's like that fulfillment is like such a benefit to me, and like I get cool content from it. I get to work with cool people. Like a lot of them are my friends. I've been doing it for so long. Like I still charge them obviously, but like, you know, the fulfillment is a huge payment for me as well. And same with working with like your content and Sean's content, like all that kind of stuff is so fulfilling to me because I'm like, man, I wish I could be like, you know, in a canoe somewhere, but then I'm also in the canoe and I'm like, yeah, I wish I was back home editing this maybe. I don't want to be starving right now.
What do you think when you see some of my footage? Like, remember that rapid that I ran? I think I was on the Peel River.
Insane.
And I was like a close distance from where my
shot
float
that really
plane
well
pickup. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think I ended up taking the one camera out and I didn't even have a tripod. I just balanced it on some rocks on the side of the river and kind of zoomed in on it. And then I couldn't fly the drone at the same time. So I flew the drone over the rapids before I ran them. Then I ran them, and then I filmed with the drone myself, kind of paddling away after this absolutely insane heart pound. Like when you see something like that.
That one was insane. That one was, because also I don't know when I'm working on the footage, like I haven't like got that far yet. So I don't know, like I'm just like the viewer essentially. Like I don't know what's being led up to, like, and even less than the viewer, because like I've put music and stuff and built like a feeling up until that moment of the rapid, but like I'm just skimming through it and I'm like, whoa. You just went like up and down and up and down. And that
reminds me, I need to buy a new magic arm because that one's like toast now.
Yeah, because it got blown up by that wave.
Well, it was earlier in that trip when I was going down that narrow stream that same magic arm smashed into a branch and was like, and then on top of that wave, and now it just doesn't hold firmly. Yeah, they're like $300, like $250 for them.
Everything camera related.
Yeah, but they're like built like a brick. house, those
Yeah.
things, but you know,
I
even
mean, it
brick
took a
shit
beating.
house can go down. Yeah. I remember that being like quite a wild ride, man.
It's interesting, like when you're working as an editor, because you almost have to become that person for a little while, or like at least feel like you're becoming that person to get in their mindset of one, how they filmed it, what their mindset was like making the content.
Yeah.
And then to be able to put it together in the way that you would put it together, but just like with my touch on it as well. So like when I'm working on your videos for, you know, however long I'm editing them for, I'm just like trying to embrace like my inner Jim Baird. Like, how am I going to make this captivate it the way that you shot it, essentially?
Right.
So like it's really cool actually, because it's like you're kind of playing like a first person game or something, or you're like watching a movie. Like you're just so encapsulated by like that person that like for the most part I'm just like, I text you a lot of the time. I'm like, dude, that was insane. That was insane. Like send you a video of like something funny that happened. I'm like, that was hilarious. Like, or just like enjoyment, like is so high, like while I'm doing it.
Oh,
So
cool, man. That's great to hear, because I feel like that's perfect. And it takes a long time to build that sort of that working relationship too, doesn't it? Between when you just start working with somebody, how they want their videos, and kind of the trust and the like, your ability, probably because I've been shooting my stuff better, it has, you know, a lot to do with it, but your ability to edit videos that I like even better and faster has gone up too, since we both started working together, which is just like awesome. Like that's why I was like, oh man, I don't like, if you were, I did like to find somebody new and try to like build that up with them again would be like horrible. It's like so much time invested. Like I just hope you don't
and trial
go
and error.
anywhere. Nobody else call this guy to ask him to edit your videos. But anyway, I'm just kidding. No, do call him, or I don't know. But hire him for something.
Yeah, you hire me for something. But I'm loyal. I'm loyal here.
Yeah,
So.
right on. So at what point was it like when you're, okay, I've been doing this photography. I've been learning the skills. I'm getting these contracts. Holy shit, I just got a job to go and film and photograph in Iceland. Or what, you did go to Iceland. Was that more of a work related thing, or was
Kind
it
of.
like, yeah, okay.
It was in between. So it was like Sorrel. So she was moving from Iceland to Australia.
That's crazy. That's a big move.
She's from Australia and was like moved to Iceland and was there, I think, for like 8 years maybe or something. And she was moving from that place. So she was selling.
That makes more sense than if she was from Iceland, because I feel like Australians would be more likely to move to Iceland than the other way
100%.
around. Yeah.
Like Iceland's like a crazy place to decide to live. Like it's dark.
Called Iceland.
Yeah, it's dark half the year.
Yeah.
They have like crazy weather all the time, volcanoes erupting. It's also bright half the year, so they don't even have darkness. Like, kind of a crazy place to choose to live. It's beautiful, obviously, but like,
so cool.
There's like huge like restrictions to living there, like just of like what you can do, and also cost of living is
What do
crazy.
you mean what you can do?
Like just like even like ordering things online, like to get there, like it's even more expensive. Like
It's such a remote place.
Yeah.
I love how it counts as the most eastern part of Europe, but yet it's on the in between the two tectonic plates.
Yeah.
Why is it not the most western place in Europe? Why is it not the most eastern place of North America? Just because it was settled by Europeans?
I guess, yeah.
You know, shouldn't it be split half and half? It's
You'd
both.
think.
It's both the most Western North American, Eastern North American, and Western European.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna write a letter.
You should.
I should.
But I guess with the restriction side, it's just like it's dark half the year, so like you're restricted in terms of like what you can do. Like it's dark, so
especially as a photographer, I guess you have to be a damn good night photographer.
yeah. Then the other half is bright, so you have to have like be able to black out your curtains in your home to like be able to like sleep and stuff. And
That's how it is in the Canadian North too, right?
Yeah.
Like people,
but I've seen like people like it's like a huge travel destination to go to Iceland and like whatever, and like I don't think people realize necessarily like how insane it is there. Like there was just a volcano that like literally evacuated a town like recently, and there was several that erupted this year. So like and like the winds and waves and everything, like it's a pretty like extreme place. Like
just always windy, volcanoes. It's sort of like basically what the world was like several million years ago. That's kind of
what it feels like,
right?
You know, and like things are expensive there because it is so like
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, like to get things there. I'm sure it's same with like the Canadian North. Everything's kind of expensive.
Yes,
like, it's just hard to get.
Yeah.
And like to keep things fresh.
Although it's crazy because you can fly to Iceland for cheaper than you can fly from Montreal to Kuujjuaq.
Yeah.
Which is just off the road system, basically on the tree line at the bottom of Ungava Bay in the same province.
Yeah.
You can fly from Montreal to Sydney, Australia for way cheaper than you can fly from Montreal to Kuujjuaq in the same province with just those little communities that are off the road system, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
a tourism thing too, right?
Yeah.
Like more people are going to be
Right.
traveling to Iceland. More people are going to
Yeah.
be traveling to Australia. And same with Iceland. They've done a great job with their tourism.
Oh, it's blowing up.
And
yeah.
like they show all these beautiful photos and videos, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I want to go there because it's so beautiful. I want to like see what it's like." And I think that's what Socotra is like.
It's like the next
somewhat
Iceland.
trying to emulate. Like I
Right.
don't think they want to make it as commercial.
You know, it's different than Iceland, but it has that otherworldly,
100%.
exotic feel to it.
It has like
know?
I've never seen something like this. That's why it's crazy.
Right. What's another exotic, we'll call it island, archipelago or island that you'd like to visit to work at?
This is like early talks, but like I'm working with a company that's going to be like doing some stuff in like really remote Brazil.
Oh, okay. Oh, what, like in the Amazon?
Kind of. And like
Oh,
they do
wow.
like forest restoration and stuff there. So like
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to go there.
Cool.
And like we're
Yeah.
still figuring out like when that's going to be. And like they also have places in like the Philippines and
Mm-hmm.
all over. And they do all kinds of forest and coral restoration.
Mm-hmm.
So like that should be pretty cool. I have a
Anywhere
list of-
that if you could pick a place that this would be cool to visit, travel, and do a similar thing to what you did, for example, in Socotra, or what were you doing in Abu Dhabi? That was business as well, or?
Yeah, so we just
Yeah.
like that was our layover spot. We were actually supposed to. This is kind of this one's a bit of a tough one to swallow, but it was we were supposed to go to Iraq after, and I actually didn't get let in to Iraq because my passport was going to expire.
Oh no.
But it wasn't even. It was just the person read it wrong. Like it's so you have to have 6 months to go to Iraq essentially on your
6
passport.
months left on your passport. Okay.
And I had 6 months and 29 days. But apparently, if it's under, as soon as it's within that, like
close to it.
then they're just like no.
Huh.
So I didn't know
Brutal.
that. So I didn't get my
Yeah.
passport renewed for that. So I didn't get let
man.
into Iraq. And I was shooting in Kurdistan, which was like a refugee camp, and it was going to be so cool. I still got to make the video, like edit it, but I didn't get to shoot it.
Was that's almost sounds like you're shooting for the press or something like that.
So it was a woman named Taban, and she has a foundation there called the Lotus Flower, and it's super great. Like, obviously, they've been through a lot in Iraq, and you know, she was a political prisoner growing up. Her dad was being hunted by Saddam Hussein, all kinds
Crazy.
of stuff. So we
Yeah,
were
she's a
interviewing
Kurd?
her. Yeah.
Wow.
So we were interviewing her, and basically, just like she has a foundation that like helps people there and gives them like places to live and jobs
Wow.
and all kinds of stuff. And
Amazing to see that you know so many people could be crushed, devastated from the trauma, and then some people turn around and create a foundation and take all this horrible things that happened to them and just like create this
so much positive.
yeah, and become these incredible people. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's hard to know what that is inside of people. That sometimes the people that have been through the worst end up doing most amazing things. You know?
Insane. And like just her like will to live and like spice for life. Like she just loves living. Like that was like she said it multiple times in the interview. Like I had no reason to continue on, but I just loved living. I loved being alive. And
Cool.
like she was actually on a bus to be buried alive as like a 10-year-old girl.
Whoa.
And
oh my
like-
God, imagine how terrifying that would be.
And also like at the airport at that moment, like I was waiting to check bags because I needed like all my equipment and stuff that was with me, even some of the stuff that got stolen.
Right.
And so I was checking my bags. So I was waiting this long line. And then my flight's getting like pretty close to like, you know, we're taking off in 20 minutes. Like I got to get through this here. And then I haven't even gone through security. And then somebody else's flight, like there was all these people that were in line and like someone else's flight got canceled. So then all these people just rushed forward and just like it became like, have you ever seen The Amazing Grace when it's just like pandemonium at the airport? It was kind of like that. And everyone's freaking out and yelling and screaming. And I'm just like, can I just get my bag checked so I can like get on my plane? Like my flight didn't get canceled. Like I need to get on my plane. They look at my passport and they're like, it's expired. And I'm like, no. Like I still have like 6 months and 29 days. And they were like, yeah, it's close enough. So no.
Whoa.
And I was just like, no. Like I already have a visa to go here. Like
Yeah.
they know my passport and they're like, doesn't matter. And they just were like next in line. And then people rushed forward and pushed me out of the way. And I'm like, no, like I have to get on my flight like right now. I'm going there for work. Like I need to film this like very important piece of like art here. Like this is talking about someone's life story about like escaping Saddam Hussein and being buried alive. Like this is insane. So they're like, no, you can't go. So then I flew back to Toronto.
So what did you have to tell this lady that you were working for that you just didn't get let in?
I was just like, they didn't let me in. And she's just like, why? And I'm like, apparently my passport's too close to being expired. And like, honestly, it was just like kind of a defeating moment. Like I felt like I've never really felt
No
like,
stress at all.
not stress, but just like sadness. Like I felt like
man.
I really let that person down. And like, I don't ever want to feel that way with anybody.
Yeah, no, I could relate. But even though it's not your fault though.
It's not my fault, but like, I guess I could have got it renewed, but I assumed it was fine. Cause like I had looked up, I was like, oh, it's 6 months. It's fine. I have like 7 months essentially.
Right.
So I just didn't think it was going to be a problem. And then obviously it was, but so I just felt like really like let down, and I felt like I let her down, and like that, you know, I gave her some of my equipment.
I think she's going to get over it considering all that she's been through already.
I think she'll get over it.
Probably not
We're good.
that big of a deal compared to being like threatened to be buried alive as a child and all this. Like, how could you even?
And we made a cool video with it anyway.
God,
So like the video is out, and like it is really powerful, and it's a great interview. I would have loved to have been able to be there filming it. Like it would have been a cool bucket list thing to do. But
Yeah, these are some places though. Like Iraq is not the kind of place.
Northern Iraq.
Right, when people are like, where was the family going to go? Like the Griswolds aren't like, we're going to Iraq. You know what I
And
mean?
then we're gonna go to Socotra, and then
Right.
you know, we're gonna go.
Yeah, like
remote
these are
Iceland.
some interesting places where there's a level of like kind of fear involved, and with what a lot of people might think, and the safety of going to such a place.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could probably sympathize with this more than like the average person. But like I just do things, and I don't really think about like necessarily like the repercussions of doing things. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like of doing crazy things, like hiking certain mountains that like maybe I shouldn't hike on that day because of weather or whatever. Like I've had several like kind of hypothermia scares on mountains and stuff.
No,
and
no
like
kidding.
I just do things, and then like deal with it as you're doing it, and like live in the moment. And I've always been that way. So same thing with Iraq and going to Socotra. Like it never crossed my mind that I was ever going to be in danger. Like, and everyone's like, you're probably scared you're going to Iraq. And I'm like, I haven't thought about it. Like it's just, I'm going there to make a cool video, and that's all that I'm focused on. And like,
Yeah, I think if you do your research too, and you're smart about it, like, you know, I remember my cousin, she went to South America for like 7 months when she was in her early 20s, and people are like, isn't that safe? Isn't that not safe? And she pretty much learned how to speak Spanish. By the time she was done, she knew how to speak it, and she knew she'd done all the research and knew exactly where wasn't safe and where was. And it's
Right.
almost like, you know, I get that. And looking back, I was like, are you sure you should be going to Colombia? She lived in Colombia. They eventually moved because of some like social unrest and stuff like that. But, you know, you just kind of feel like you hear certain things and you sort of apply that to the whole area.
right.
You know what I mean? But it's like if you go to, like, let's say a big American city, you're not going to the worst neighborhood in that entire city.
Right. Like when I just went to Detroit, people were like, why would you go to Detroit? I'm like,
Right.
Detroit's a beautiful city.
Yeah, like around the stadium where
like downtown, like it's really cool, like really cool architecture, like a beautiful place. Like obviously there are places in any city you don't want to go, but like
Right.
why would I go there? What reason do I have to go to that place? You know what I mean? Like even I'm sure if you went there, like maybe it wouldn't be as bad, maybe it would be, but like you know, I think you have to look at it from the perspective of actually being there at that moment, opposed to just like assuming, you know, maybe it's more safe to assume. Maybe that's where I'm getting myself into trouble.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you have to, like, I you know, for some of the trips I do, definitely like planning is important, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's become easier to plan too. Like some other sort of expeditions where you're canoeing rivers that like you can't find a record of travel on. There's like more unknowns, more planning needs to be done. How much time is it going to take? It's hard to judge the amount of time. Like, I think Ungava, when I walked across the Ungava Peninsula, it was 2016. I think that took me 9 more days.
Right.
Than
Because you got snowed in quite a bit.
Yeah, so I should have planned for that, but I didn't really plan. And also how many, like, I mean, it's not wildly uncommon to have so many blizzards, but 9 days of blizzards,
Pretty crazy.
you could probably do it 10 times and not have 9 days
Right.
of like horrific blizzards to the point where you can't travel. And like even going outside of your tent, you know, is going to be
Feels like a huge
terrifying.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, did you edit the you're editing some of that. But did you see the one where it wasn't even snowing, it was just so the wind was blowing so hard and it was like minus 35 or with plus a wind chill, and I went fishing, so I didn't travel that day.
And you built like a wall around the fish.
Yeah, so it took me like 2 hours probably to build a snow block wall, so then I could then chisel with a chisel through 7-foot thick ice and caught absolutely nothing.
Yep.
That was a depressing moment.
I can only imagine, because you're also so hungry, and like at that point you're already like,
I'm trying to get
know if
food.
I have enough food to make it all the way, because I've had to use so much. Like,
right.
What are you doing in the tent also, like all day? Like obviously you're like reading.
I
and
read
stuff,
like a
but
Farley Mowat book called The Farfarers.
did you read it 6 times?
I think I'm just a really slow reader. Also, try reading in a tent when it's minus 30. Your hands are freezing, so you have to read with like mitts on, and you're trying to change the page with like your mouth, and you just feel like an idiot.
This
You
is
know what
also
I mean?
true.
Yeah. Like you can't just read in a normal way, even in that temperature. You know what I mean?
So I'm just picturing
Yeah.
like you didn't film like a ton of like in the tent stuff.
Right.
Obviously, just surviving. I get that.
I should have filmed more.
But I was
needed a
wondering, I was
super
like,
view.
what are you doing in there?
Yeah.
What is taking place in the tent? Like,
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. It was like fairly like relaxing. I had like a really warm, good sleeping bag and a really good ground pad, and I just like did nothing. And I didn't feel guilty that I wasn't getting on with things because
how
like
could you? You're
I'm
literally
already
trapped.
Yeah, so you kind of get, you can get a little bit stir crazy and get starting to worry that if this weather doesn't break, oh man, I'm gonna run out of food. I'm gonna, so those days where I wasn't using much energy, I wasn't really consuming much food, but I'd make tea and run the stove here and there, and be scared when the tent shook violently in the gusts. I actually had one blizzard, actually, that the tent poles on that snow trekker tent, the poles are like this big, and it was such a hard, sustained wind that it permanently bent one of the poles just from the wind, sustained wind blowing against it, and then gusts, and then probably also the snowbank starting to build up on it, because when you get into that situation, you have to build a snow block wall, or else you can't set your tent up because it's too windy. You'll never get it up. But once the snow block wall, once the tent's up really securely, it can stand up to some crazy wind. So
But it's just getting it actually up.
Yeah. So I gotten the tent up and secured, but then the wind changed, so the snow block wall wasn't blocking it, and stuff was drifting over. And I remember unzipping the tent, and just it had all drifted in. It was just like a wall of snow in front of me, and I had to like dig myself out of the tent or whatever.
I can't even imagine. That's just something that most people would never experience. Like, being trapped for so long that you got buried in snow, in like the middle of nowhere, like beyond the middle of nowhere. Like, people say I'm in the middle of nowhere, but like you genuinely were in the middle. Like, people hadn't walked that for so long or even ever.
Right.
So like,
yeah, who knows when the last person was right in those spots? Like, people would travel the rivers, right, inland up the Pavungnatuk River, and by dog team they'd travel certain distances. But yeah, like being in some mountain range between like east of Lac Alaman, in the middle of some like mountain range, like who the hell has set foot there recently? Like the travel route would have been down the Pavungnatuk River, even by dog team, or around that mountain range. I went right through it. It was at that point where I was like, I'm not going to make it. I was like, that was like the scariest point, because the snow was so deep. And I'm just thinking, like, if it continues like this, if this is such slow going, like it was like a cartoon. Like at one point I looked around to see Buck, and like he was just trudging along through the snow under the snow.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could barely even see him. Right. And then trying to get up the steep hill where the snow was so deep, it's like up to my chest in this drift, and it wasn't hard packed, and being like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to do like 20K a day. and coming over that mountain range, probably the hardest day of travel, arguably the hardest day of travel of the entire 36-day like expedition. And then finally seeing where the mountain range like broke and
Probably just being so excited.
yeah, and the scenery kind of gave way and into much flatter country. And I kind of came down from this high elevation area. After that, there was just the big river kind of valleys that were a challenge. But it was like this perfect evening. I remember coming down out of that and being like, holy, thank God.
Yeah, but it probably felt like nothing compared to like what you had just gone through. Like even if you had just gone through like just like hilly territory, it probably would have been like, oh, this sucks. But like because you went through what you just did, it probably just felt like so insignificant. Like it was like the downhill of the trip, you know? Obviously there was other challenges as well, but
yeah. Once I got through that, I was able to bang off more time. But like, you know, it's like for any of these things for travel, like planning all kinds of adventure travel, remote places where there might be danger. Planning is what really counts, right? But then 100%. Also like sometimes, you know, the whole you plan and God laughs kind of thing. Like there's certain things that
you can only plan for so much.
Yeah. You know? So you got to have some level of being careful needs to be involved in there as well.
Like I feel like I'm a planner when it comes to trips and stuff, but plan to a degree. Like I'm planning things I want to do and see. Like I'm not necessarily going from point A to point B, traveling somewhere, like doing a remote river like that, but I'm planning what I want to do and what I want to see. But also like if like in Socotra, we had a lot of rain and we had a lot of like bad weather, and it's like, how could I plan for that? What can I do? Like I have no way to go inside anywhere. The only inside I remember in is a truck,
right?
You know? So like, what am I supposed to do with my camera equipment? We had to hike down to this, we're talking about Socotra a lot, but it's such an interesting place. Like it's just so weird, and like there's so many strange things that happened on that trip. But we had to hike down like probably 5 kilometers to like a beautiful white canyon, and I wanted to fly the drone down there. It would have been a great swimming hole and all kinds of stuff. But then it started to rain, and the only case I had that was waterproof was like a big Nanook case. Like those big heavy ones, and I had all my camera equipment in it. So I had to hike 5K with that, and I can't strap it to anything. I'm just carrying it.
Oh, brutal.
Like this, and I'm carrying it down, and like, you know, down's fine. But then on the way back up, like I have it on my back, and I'm just like, oh my God, like it just, there's probably like 60 pounds, this case. It's soaking wet. I'm exhausted.
What
I'm
temperature
sunburned.
is it outside? Oh,
Probably like 40 degrees outside. Like
yeah.
I'm so sunburned, and like I didn't even get the footage I wanted because it was raining so much. Like it was just, that was kind of like a big L on the trip. Like I didn't, and on the drive up there, actually, we're up this like beautiful mountain road. Like basically if you go off the side, like the road's like, you know, fits the car. But if you go off the side, you're not making it. There's no way.
How was it? Was it even crazier than that Telegraph Creek road that we went in on?
It'd just be different, similar but different.
I imagine the road on that in northern BC, you know, for Canada, that road's crazy. But the road itself wasn't like rutted out with potholes and stuff like that. But there was literally like a cliff on one side, and then if you went off of it, like guaranteed you're just mush, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So this was like, it was pouring rain and it's mud. And we're in like a 90s Land Cruiser, and our car broke down partway up the mountain.
Oh no.
So it just died because I was trying to charge stuff, so I killed the battery.
Oh, you killed the battery?
I killed the battery.
Well, because you were charging while you weren't driving?
Well, we were driving, but we were driving so slow that it just like, we were only going like 5 kilometers an hour, like up this mountain. So like I could have walked faster.
Wow.
And so he killed the battery. So then he puts it in park, and then he's kind of like the driver. He's kind of just like looking, and me and Sorrel were out filming something, like waiting for the other car to come down and boost us. And then he just puts it in neutral and rolls back like 10 feet, 15 feet, and a huge rock just comes right where the truck was and just blows up onto the ground. And we're just like, the heck? And I actually got it on video because I could hear it cracking, and I just put the camera there, and not even filming, but just like just turned it that way and was like, holy crap. Like, that just like, I would have crushed our car.
Yeah.
Like this big rock. So.
Whoa. So could you get around it because it blew up afterwards, or did you have to
we just
clear
kind
it
of
off?
cleared it off, and like,
but
then we got the car boosted, went up to this spot, and then did this hike that was like a huge fail. Like I got some footage, but like not
didn't
what I
get footage, just almost died, horribly sunburnt, exhausted.
Yeah, like I got sunburned on day 1.
Ooh, yeah.
Like really bad.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Aren't you Scottish background or Scottish Irish?
Yeah, so we're nice and pale.
Yeah, evolved in a place where it's just overcast all the time.
Yeah.
you know, where you need to be pale for vitamin D. And then when you know, I'm the same way. I'm a ginger. I'm probably worse than you. You go to a place with that kind of sun, man, it just beats you up, you know?
Yeah. And like I had sunscreen on and stuff too, but like it was just my whole back from like the top of my head to my feet. It was other than like my bathing suit line.
Maybe you need to start rocking one of those Jim Baird wide brim hats.
I think I need to.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even bring a hat with me.
Yeah.
I'm not like a hat guy. I don't ever wear hats. So like I didn't bring one. So I took a shirt and I had wrapped it around my head as like a hood so it would protect my scalp the whole time. It looked hilarious in all the photos, but
It did the trick.
like I was so hot in the tent from sleeping that my back was so burnt. I couldn't sleep on my back because it was so burnt. And I couldn't keep the tent door closed because there was too much humidity in the tent. I had to have a breeze come in. So I had to sleep with my tent door wide open the whole time.
So it's basically like torture.
It was like a weird form of torture.
Weird form of torture. It's like kind of like the feeling of constantly getting a tattoo. That's what I guess maybe. That's my guess. Is
the whole
oh my God.
Like I was burnt like that. Like, and I wore a long sleeve the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
So the day one I was wearing a t-shirt and I took it off like when I was on the beach to go in the water briefly. That's when I got burnt, the reflection off the water. And then the rest of the trip I was wearing a black long sleeve the whole time.
What do the locals do? Like obviously they have darker skin, but they're not like they'll still get burnt if they're just
They didn't
sitting
even know
on
what
the
a
sun.
sunburn was.
Really?
They didn't even know. Like
What?
when I was
Yeah.
burnt like that and I was like describing to them, they're like, I have no idea what that is. But they also have like, they're wearing like robes, like they're
Right.
kind of covered up. But like I learned that like that makes the most sense for out there because it's breathable. Like the air can go up and cool you off. You also have like they wear their headdress. I'm not sure what it's actually called. I know the robe's a condora, but
Sound like you were kind of emulating that headdress though. With
as soon as I saw them wearing it, that's why I put the shirt on my head like and had it wrapped around my neck.
Yeah.
Because it made sense because it protects your neck.
Right. Yeah. Just like something hanging down the back there.
Yeah.
I had like Tori jokes with me. She's like, "You're the coolest person to ever wear like a Tilly hat like that." I'm like,
For sure.
That's a backhanded compliment. But like, I don't care. It doesn't matter whether I look like the biggest Wally on the face of the earth. I
it's
have to
serving a
wear
purpose.
it, or else I'm going to die out there.
It's
you know what I
serving a
mean?
purpose.
Right, exactly. And I remember my brother got on the tip too because we were both out fishing on the lake one day. Didn't have sunscreen with us. We come back. He's like torched, and I'm fine. And
he's even paler than
he's
you
like,
are.
"What a yeah." And he said, "Yeah, he is blue eyes and that." And somebody's like, "What? Why are you burnt and you're not?" And I'm like, "I wore a hat." And my brother's like, "Oh yeah," and I'm pretty sure wore a hat from that point on.
Well, they
because,
tell you
like,
to wear a hat as a kid. Like everyone,
Right.
like, your parents make you wear a hat and everything. And then, you know, I go to like one of like the hottest climates and I'm like stupid and don't bring a hat. And I have like short hair, so I don't even have anything to protect my scalp at
Yeah.
all. It was so bad, like to touch my head, just doing that. I was like,
Don't. You know, being a ginger, the subject of sunburns, it's sort of just talking about it, it's just sort of like nails on a chalkboard kind of feel to me all the time. You know, you could
I
probably
still have marks
relate.
on my back from that burn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it burned me bad. Like,
Okay, I don't think I've ever had it that bad before. But
and then I think what happened too, I got sick when I got back to Abu Dhabi, which I'm so thankful I didn't get sick when I was in Socotra. Like, couldn't imagine like.
So you flew through Abu Dhabi. So that's how you flew to Socotra from Abu Dhabi?
It's the only place that flies there.
Okay, yeah. So I thought, is that where you visited that really cool mosque?
Yeah.
Was that on the same trip?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So that wasn't.
That was after.
So weren't you saying when you said that when you got kicked out of Iraq or whatever?
Yeah.
You just flew back home, kind of essentially, and had to emotionally regroup.
Right.
That
So-
trip never led you anywhere else, did it?
No, unfortunately not. So basically, I flew from Toronto and I had connecting flights, whatever. I landed in Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi to Socotra, Socotra back to Abu Dhabi, and then Abu Dhabi to Iraq. But I didn't get to leave Abu Dhabi that time to go to Iraq. Like I didn't get on the plane. So I didn't end up going to Iraq. I just stayed in Abu Dhabi. And then I flew from there to Toronto.
Okay, all right.
So, but
What's Abu Dhabi like?
unbelievable. It's probably the most beautiful city I've ever seen.
No
And,
kidding.
like clean, no garbage anywhere, and like just no like poverty at all. Like at least you don't see it. Maybe there is, but you don't see it. And like I didn't see a single homeless person. Like it was just a gorgeous city. Everyone there is so friendly and nice, and like the mosque is obviously just
What's that mosque called again?
the Grand Mosque.
Yeah, it's just like such a cool piece
It's
of
the biggest mosque in
architecture.
the world.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was breathtaking.
Yeah.
Like we went there for sunset and it was just like, wow. Like So I had to cover up fully. I had to wear a Condora,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually gave me the headpiece. I didn't post that photo, I don't think, with the headpiece on. I ended up just getting really hot with it on because I had clothes on underneath the Condora, so like it didn't
Right.
really like aerate as like it should.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But yeah, because I had like tattoos, like they wouldn't let me
No
just walk through.
tattoos. Yeah, it's just you're gonna scare the children kind of thing, eh?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's I think like they're less taboo to it now. Like it's just like,
is that just a Muslim religious thing? They don't believe in tattoos, or
yeah, like skulls and stuff like that. And like if you had any like pinup girls or anything, like they wouldn't let that. Like a lot of
Right.
tattoos they would just be fine with, but like I do have that stuff. So
right, yeah, because some certain religions like don't look down on its others are the opposite, right?
yeah,
Like,
I think that they're like they won't, like if you're that religion, you don't get tattooed, like you
Right.
don't get them, but other people can have them, but just like they have to be respectful.
yeah. So you had to cover up and good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Condor looked cool.
Yeah. And so you weren't there at that time working though, were you?
No, we were just like
Yeah.
kind of waiting to go to Iraq, and we stayed there for a few days. We were kind of working, I guess we were working on some of the footage and like going through stuff and like getting everything charged again, and also recharging our bodies. Like just got like the beat out of us for like 10 days straight, and like
Yeah.
to like get back to like a little more like civilized. And I got really
Right.
sick too, so like I was kind of just recovering from like a sickness.
From water, drinking the water or something? Or?
I'm not sure. Like I think when I got sunburned, it like kind of affected my immune system. Like my body put like a lot of emphasis towards that, and then like the stress from all that like just made me more susceptible to sickness. So I got like some kind of like stomach bug, and I was just like very thankful that living uncontrollably was in a hotel and not in the sand.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a cat in the litter box, I'm in the sandbox. Yeah, that's
So-
wild. So some of the less glamorous things about
Yeah.
being a professional photographer and cinematographer, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, I mean,
Doesn't all come with sunshine and rainbows, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of it like really is like as you portray it, like you're taking a beautiful photo and like you saw that in the moment, and like that's like the most spectacular thing. Like you're thinking about it until you get to edit that photo and then post it, and like it's just such a like cool experience. But then there's other times where it's like it's kind of torturous. Like it can be kind of like to get those photos, like you got to put yourself, like you got to be up super early in the morning to get the sunrise and sunset. Like we got up at 3 a.m. and hiked a sand dune that took us an hour to hike up.
Yeah, wow.
So like there's those aspects too, and like you're putting yourself in like sometimes harm's way to like get the shot and like whatever. But
Yeah. It's funny because it's as much as like you're able to push yourself through, work extra hard, and tell yourself, I guess, the right things you need to tell yourself to motivate yourself to do it. It's also like working at McDonald's. You weren't hard enough. You couldn't handle
do it.
yeah, right. Isn't that funny? It's almost like, in a way, like I like to look at it like whatever job I'm doing, I'll do the best of my capabilities. And even if it's not what I want to do, I'll learn what I can from that. Right. But also there's something to be said for wanting to move on to do something that's more along the lines of what you want to do,
and what
even
interests
if you can hack it at doing that, right? You know what I mean? Like I did, I worked in mineral exploration, and some of it was really fun actually, and my boss was a great guy, and we had some good times out there. But man, there's times when it's like 5 a.m, you have like frostbite in your big toe. Your boots are like still damp from the day before, and it's like minus 30, and you really didn't sleep last night, and you're like going to just like, go kind of beast mode or work on a drill outdoors in the freezing cold all day. And you're just kind of like, one of the first things we had to do in that job was, connect water to the drill. So you're doing diamond drilling. So
Right.
people think you're drilling 4 diamonds, but no, you're drilling with a diamond studded drill bit into the bedrock. And that
Crazy.
drill bit is like pulling out core samples, which are long, round, like cylinders out of the ground. And then, they basically look at those to see if there's any veins of whatever precious metal,
Right.
graphite, whatever that you might be looking for, right? But the drill needs to cool. So you have to get water to it. So I remember this one job, there was nobody working the night shift. Sometimes you keep the drill going 24/7, but nobody's working the night shift. So it was just always minus 30 out, like whatever. It's just
Right.
always minus 30. So we have to connect water to get to the drill. So you have to connect it for 2 kilometers on a trail that I already cut with a chainsaw that we could then drive the drill with, and then cutting like corduroy roads using dead trees to cross like the swamps and stuff like that. So this drill, which is on tank tracks, can make it through there. And then it would still be dark out and you'd have to wear like rain gear because the water would be coming out of one hose and you'd have to attach the other hose like this.
Oh, so you get soaked.
And then twist it. Yeah. So no matter what, it's spraying on you, but oftentimes like you couldn't get it to go in and it would just be like spraying all over you.
It's like those oil rigs when you see them like connecting the new like pipe to it and it's like spraying oil everywhere and they're like covered in it and they're just like trying to get it closed.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes the pipe that you connect would have, so you have to blow in the tube in the pipe or hose to make sure that there was no ice blockage in there. But sometimes you couldn't really tell. And then what would happen is that all this ice would push through and it would get jammed, and then the pressure of the water would just blow the hose. So the hose would be like, boo, and it'd be spraying over, and you'd be like, getting soaked, or be spraying, and then you'd have to like try to patch that one, and then you finish that one, and boom, it would blow over here, and then like,
oh my God,
you'd finish this, and it would be like you'd just be covered like ice, like cracking, falling off of you, and like then the day's work would start, and it was like 14-hour days kind of thing, right?
You're just cold and wet all day.
Yeah, and I'm just like, there's times like that, I'd be like, the pay was pretty good, but I'm just like, I really gotta get on to doing something else with my life here. Right. So I think sometimes a little bit of internal complaint. I want to call it complaining. I wasn't outly complaining, but you weren't complaining about working at McDonald's, but you're like, it's something hitting you.
Wish
like,
you're doing something else.
Maybe this isn't what I want to do with my life. You know what I mean? Like, I work with guys in that industry that were drillers that thought it was awesome. They liked working in different places and had stories, and you know what I mean? And they were making good money. But yeah, like, sometimes it's not, sometimes you have to go through a little bit of shitty times to figure out what you actually want to do.
Yeah. And it makes like those good times just that much better too.
Yeah.
Like it makes you appreciate them a lot more. Like, I did the McDonald's thing for literally 2 weeks. I think it was 10 days. And then I worked for like a factory. So I did like planing wood, like just putting wood through like a smoother basically. And it just cuts it down to like
sounds
the size.
Not redundant at all.
It was so redundant. I got to drive a forklift, which was kind of fun, but other than that, like it was just, and you're outside, like it wasn't heated, so you're just freezing all day. And like, that was something. And obviously the people there just hated being there too, and like pay was awful. And worked as like a carpenter's assistant, which was pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
So like,
you learn some stuff that could build. Like now, when you can put that to use when you're trying to
100%
do a job around the house, just building a fence.
Yeah, so we did
building a
deck.
A deck. Yeah, that's fun, dude. I love building decks. You know what I love building? Docks. That's one of my favorite things to work on, because you're down by the water. You're usually like in cottage country. Yep. You know what I mean?
So that was good. Yeah. I enjoyed that job, but also like I had already decided I was going to school at that point because I was doing the goalie coaching thing as well. And so I went to school, and then I did like multiple different jobs during school. Like I had an internship where I was doing wholesale stuff for like sporting equipment, where like I was selling like teams in the States, like jerseys and stuff.
So you got in that just because you're like, okay, this is related to sports, which you played hockey, basketball as well, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Not as high as a level, but
no, not as high a level. But it's more just like a thing I do now. Like I didn't really play that much growing up, but from hockey injuries, I was able to still play basketball. So I still do that as like a physical activity thing, but
right on. Yeah.
So I did all those, and then,
you think business school was helpful? Like, cause you what you took in school was partially,
it was just business related. Really.
Yeah.
Like even sport was it was business.
Yeah. Yeah. What
like
kind of business, like what are they teaching you? How to make a business, how to form a business, how to just like MBA stuff, like administration stuff? Or
they basically just taught business, but like related it to sports. So like if you were doing like law, you would be doing like sports law. So like you'd just be making contracts for like athletes opposed to just contracts for any other job. So they made it like, and being like someone who was an athlete, it just made it really relatable to like learn. So like I think I learned easier because it was just related to sport directly. And then like we would do like math and everything like that, and like you had electives, and we did like, there was an entrepreneurship class, which was cool. So like you got to learn how to like start a business and things like that. But ultimately I think like business school just gave me time to figure out what I want to do. Like obviously I learned a ton. I probably don't even realize what I learned. I feel like a lot
Right.
of people are like, oh, I didn't learn anything in school. And it's like, you know how to do algebra. Like, you know how to do
Right.
like simple like addition and writing a sentence. Like you learned that.
Yeah, it kind of eventually sort of becomes, once something becomes sort of yours, you forget where you learned it
100%.
because it becomes sort of your own thing.
It's
you
just
know?
first nature. Like you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't even realize I learned that, but I did. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that like I probably don't even realize I learned, but I
Right,
did.
right.
And then it just gave me time to figure out that I wanted to do like photo and video and like, you know, the ability to live on my own too.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Would you ever do a canoe trip like the ones that
100%.
I do? Yeah.
100%. I've done portaging.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just in
Okay,
Algonquin, but
right on.
like so fun.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's exciting. I remember one trip, one of the earlier trips I did. I feel like for anybody trying to get into it, a good way to tell the story would be that like it's more important to want to like it than to necessarily think you're going to like it.
Right.
Because sometimes there's type 2 fun involved.
For sure.
Which is like, you know, when it might not be fun at the time, but then afterwards it somehow becomes fun because you tell the stories and you laugh about it and you
Yeah.
enjoy the adventure.
You think about all the memories and like the
Yeah.
craziness that you went through. And
Right, right. It seems like with what you do, there's a certain amount of stress and type 2 fun that kind of comes with it. But when you can overcome those things, it feels good. Sometimes when you can't, it feels like when you had to come back from Iraq and
Yeah.
there's like nothing, you know, at least usually when there's a problem you're faced with, but you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this. What are we going to do? And you solve it. You feel good.
Yeah.
Feel better than if you never had the problem in the first place. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of too, like things just happen for a reason around you,
Mm-hmm.
like they always will. And
Yeah.
just going with what happens, like, and not being like even with the Iraq thing, like I was like disappointed, but like at the end of the day, I was like, it is what it is. I can't change the decision. Like I can't change what happened. Like
Right.
I kind of just have to move forward with it. And I ended up getting like even more sick actually. So like I was really glad I actually didn't go because I was like pretty sick.
Yeah.
So like when I got home, like I was kind of
Yeah.
out of commission for like a week anyway. So I was like,
Wow.
well, I'm glad I wasn't like having to like perform and film properly and like be the best version of myself essentially when I'm like really feeling like 0% right now.
Yeah, especially when you're in a country where you don't have like know where you're going to be staying, what the regular comforts are because of what you're going to
Yeah.
be filming, right?
Where the
Like,
closest bathroom's going to be.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
you know, that was like an issue, but
I had one travel story like that when I blew out my knee when I was in the rainforest, and then I accidentally like brushed my teeth with the water,
crazy.
and now I had to get to the washroom with a blown out knee. Let me tell you, bud, there were some real close calls.
Oh, I bet.
You know, like those two things, blown out knee
And having to go to the bathroom.
explosive diarrhea,
And no close toilet.
do not go hand in hand. So much pain.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like when I travel, I almost like don't even go to the bathroom like for
Yeah.
the first like couple of days. It just like whatever reason my body's just like more stressed than I think my mind is or whatever, and I just won't go to the bathroom. And then I'm like kind of concerned, like I probably should be having to go to the bathroom at this point. Like why have I not
Yeah.
gone? And then I'm like wanting to go,
Yeah.
but I'm still like I don't really want to have to go, but I want to go for like my like longevity, like health wise. I want to go.
Yeah. No, there's some times on a loan where I'm just like wondering how long it's been since I went to the bathroom, because you're eating all this stuff that kind of binds up and makes you
Right.
constipated, and like you're also not thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this kid's gonna not be healthy. Actually, one guy had to tap out just because of constipation.
Really?
Yeah, he ate too much inner tree bark, which is like a fiber,
Mm-hmm.
but too much fiber actually has the opposite effect of
Right.
making you go. It makes you not go. And so he was like all bound up and like in so much pain, and they had to pull him out of there, you know, because of that.
Being
you know?
constipated is actually like
Yeah.
really painful.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
These things happen. Always get your freaking your Blue Cross or your travel insurance,
Yeah.
before you go.
100%.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Can you think about what is it like? You know, we're talking about like the challenges of sort of once you figure out what you want to do, to not not sucked into, because I think definitely some amount of socializing and all that for sure is good, but being able to like stay focused, even though it's hard, even though it's not what you want to do, even though you already have a job in the day that might not be the most fun thing, and you get home and you're exhausted. What did you tell yourself from just like flopping down and watching TV and complaining about it all, like some of the people you worked with?
I think I just kept myself busy with
Yeah.
the like. I feel like this happens with a lot of things, which is positive. Maybe it's negative as well. But if you keep yourself very busy, you don't have room to like give yourself a break. Like even to this day, like I keep myself so busy, like to the point where like if I was to tell anyone my schedule, they're just like, "What? Like how are you doing that?" And it's literally just like that's my whole life. Like I just spend my life doing that,
Right.
and like it makes me so much more productive because I have to be productive. Like I know I have X amount of time to finish something. I have this deadline for like I give myself deadlines. So like if I was like working that job, like I would be like, I want to film 3 different videos this week and I have to have them done. I don't need to have them done like next week, but like I want to have them done next week because then I can do more projects. Then I can do more projects and make more money and do new things and like progress my career faster and faster. And I feel like I did progress my career. Like I expedited like several years of my career just by working harder, like by doing more jobs in a shorter period of time. It made me get there so much quicker, where like it wouldn't have been the case if, I just like every third day or 3 days a week I was doing video and then 2 days I was just like playing video games or whatever. Like I wouldn't have got there as quick. I wouldn't have been able to buy a home that quickly or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'd spent every hour of every day doing it, which is kind of insane.
Right. But you could see, once you see the end is in sight, it definitely makes you want to work towards it. Makes you hungry because you know you're going to get there, and it does not happening fast enough. So you start to work harder towards it.
Right. Like for me, I was like, this isn't happening fast enough. I want it now.
Yeah.
I want this now.
Yeah, I can relate. Where do you see this going, man? From the side of your media business, what perfect scenario? Where would you be in 5-10 years? What would you be doing?
I think and it sounds like a lame answer, but I just like creating meaningful content. Like I've always been like very passionate about creating stuff that I like and like that I'm really passionate about, which is like, working for your stuff. Like I really enjoy that. And like, I think what you're doing is so inspiring and cool, but also like, some of the stuff that I do, like just on my own side, like making documentaries I was telling you about. I've been getting my legs tattooed for several years now and making like a documentary about the whole process and like the art side of it and like picking the designs and like going through it and like the pain and process. That's just so special to me. And like, that's something that's meaningful. So I guess just keep creating meaningful stuff and just doing like not working for people because it's a monetary gain, but working for it because I enjoy it.
Cool.
And like, I'm sure you resonate with that as well. Just really enjoy.
That's great sentiment. So when is the documentary on the leg tattoos how much longer do you think?
Well, I should finish the leg sleeves by like summer. So it should be by like end of summer. And same with, I was thinking about that bear crawl guy. He's bear crawled a marathon, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, like running on all fours. Yeah.
And through Toronto too.
Wow.
Which is insane. And so like we've been making a documentary about like that process. And like, again, that's just such a strange thing, but it's cool. And he was raising money for like charity. And like, I've been filming that for like 4 years. So like there's been projects that are ongoing as well. But like that bigger stuff is so meaningful.
Well, what was the one where Alex Honnold free soloed El Cap? Like that goes back from footage from a long time ago that they probably started filming it and didn't even know what it was going to become or where it was going to be. Right. And then all of a sudden it became this Oscar winning thing. Yeah. Is there anything you can share for just guys like me or anybody, probably listening to this are some people that are aspiring YouTubers or people that are already, deeply invested in YouTube? Is there any, because what's interesting? It's editors are the ones that they see all the final footage. They're the ones that are like, man, if this guy only had that shot, or if only he had this one, or only he did that, right? And they then really become like one of the best ways to become a good shooter is to be an editor.
Yeah, because you know what you want in the video.
Right. So that's probably helped you on both sides, right?
For sure. Again, that expedited that process as well because I was able to see firsthand how other people shoot their content and be like, I love the way they do that. I
Right.
love the way that they talk to the camera here. I love how they like integrate certain things. Or like, I don't like that. I wouldn't do that for myself. So like to pick and choose like between all of your favorite YouTubers and pick the best things and then make it your own. Like,
Cool.
That's
and then
pretty cool.
do a deep dive too in, because you're seeing all the footage that is, on the editing room floor too. What didn't work, what did
Right.
work, and kind of like good way to learn for sure.
Yeah, for editing stuff too. Like it's crazy that like you're telling the story that no one's seen. So like you don't have to feel like guilty that you're leaving all this footage in or taking all of it out. Like you're just
Probably
showing-
easier for you. I find it so hard to be like, oh man, this shot was so hard to get. You
But I
know,
feel the
like
same way though, 'cause I'm like, I see your shot and I'm like, that's a crazy shot, but it doesn't fit here. Like
Right.
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like,
so it's probably easier for you to be objective than for
For
me. I'll just slap it in because I'm like, I can't believe that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put it in.
but I guess for like
Not
any like
ruthless enough.
upcoming YouTuber or like someone who wants to get into that, it's just like what motivates you? Like what would you be doing like otherwise? Like if you're gonna just make something that like you're not even really interested in, but you think it's gonna monetize well, like I guess there's room for that and it can be successful, but long term it's not gonna be because you're gonna
Right.
give up with it or get bored of it or hate it or whatever it is. If you're just passionate about that thing,
Yeah.
you're gonna do it because you would already be doing it. So that's how I like got into photo and videos. Like I would already be doing it. Like I wanted to do it regardless.
Right.
The fact I get paid is just a bonus. The
Yeah.
fact I can live is a bonus from it. Same with you, adventuring. Like you would just be doing it otherwise. You were doing it. You
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
you're getting paid to do it. It's a bonus that you get to do that.
100%, man, all day, and it allows me to do it more. Allows me to make it my life, kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
And make it your life.
And then have the time to learn as much as I want to learn about it, right? I know some, the kind of business side and filming side, you have to learn about that too. So I don't have as much time to maybe learn more skills that I'd like to learn. But overall, I'm like immersed in it more. I'm going to become better at it, just like you would if you're a professional hockey player compared to if you play in the beer leagues and work on
Right.
work. It's
When
like,
it's your whole life.
yeah,
You just like they say as like a kid, like when you're good at things as a kid, like it's hard to get good at things as an adult because you don't
Right.
give yourself time to be good at things. But it's because like you have other jobs, you have commitments, maybe you have a family, you have bills, like you have stress on your life. As a kid,
right.
the only thing you think about, like when I was a kid playing hockey, that's all I thought about all day. I didn't think about school when I was in
Right.
school. I didn't think about like friends. I just thought about like I have a game tonight and I want to play. I want to
Right.
have fun. I want to win.
100%, man.
And that's all I thought about all
Yeah.
day. So like
Yeah.
every day for like 17 years doing that. Like
Hockey's such a fun sport, eh? There's so much action going
So much
on.
fun.
And it's just like such a. I remember I didn't start playing till I was in about grade 3. I remember seeing a guy doing a speech when I was in grade 2 about how his favorite sport was hockey. I remember thinking like, no, baseball's the best sport. What is he talking about? And then as soon as I played hockey, I like sucked at first. But there's just so much happening. You don't have a second to get bored, and
Yep.
it's just like so fun. You know
the
what I
feeling
mean?
when you get on the ice and that cold air hits you
Yeah.
from the arena and like you take your first like skate and it just like
Yeah.
that breeze hits you. There's just something like so euphoric about that feeling to me. Like
Yeah.
it was just amazing. And like, I think like as you get older into like playing sports too, like
Right.
let's just say hockey or whatever, like as an adult or like a teenager, you have other things that are like getting in the way. Like maybe you're more interested in girls at that point, or like you have friends or like social pressures. So like that's when you kind of decide like, oh, I'm maybe not going to play pro or I'm not going to go
Right.
far. It's the same thing with anything. You just like, you don't fail, you just give up.
Right.
Maybe if you don't even realize you give up, but you do.
Right.
So like as a kid, like between like 5 and 10, you're just like, all you think about is like, my favorite NHL player is this person. I want to be them.
Right.
So if you can focus that as like
Yeah.
an
You
adult
have
on
the
something,
posters.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you can focus as an adult on something, like you're gonna be successful at it because like you're not giving yourself an option to not be.
Right. Yeah. I like that way of looking at it. And is there anything that you can, story wise, as an editor and kind of getting a behind the scenes look at some of these YouTubers and what they do, and as a shooter yourself, do you have any tips for people that are looking to kind of follow, let's say, one of their outdoor adventures, a fishing trip, a camping trip, a canoe trip, that would maybe help them make a nicer finished piece from the perspective of story in a film?
Of course, like don't focus on trying to be a different YouTuber. Like you watch your favorite YouTubers and you see how they film things. You can take pieces from it, but don't like get caught up that your shot has to be perfect. Don't get caught up that every circumstance has to be perfect. Like these people are doing it for a living. Of course, it's going to be better. If I step on the ice, I'm not an NHL player.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like you have to start somewhere. Like just get a GoPro. and like just document your trip. Like tether a story together. Like your story is what you're doing. You're already doing the story. You don't have to make a story inside that. If you want to, that's cool, but it's just, you don't have to. Like let's say you're point A to point B on a canoe trip, you know, you get to your point, you go, you make your shelter, you make your food, have some, maybe like a talk at night, and then in the morning you go to your next destination. Like that's your story. You don't have to do anything additional to that. Don't overcomplicate what is already cool.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like
good
keep
point.
it simple.
It's just a matter of one of the things I do out there is I don't know what's going to happen. When it starts happening, I start to follow that. You know what I mean? Maybe it ends in a failure. Maybe it ends in a success. Like, oh man, I really need to fish tonight. Okay, well, I see like 2 other spots on my route today that might be good fishing. Okay, I'm at the first one. Geez, that was tough to get there. Battled some headwinds. Oh my God, I'm catching nothing. What am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Then the second spot, same thing again. Well, it looks like I'm, going to be, skimping my rations. And then, I catch a monster last minute in a place I didn't think there were going to be fish. Right.
Right.
So I kind of try to follow that, not just telling people what happened, but also filming what's going on. Here's me taking a cast. Here's the lure I'm using.
Right. And piece it
here's
together like
what's
visually
around
for a
me.
person.
Yeah.
If you're watching a video, like you don't want to just see the same one shot the entire time. Like no one's like, maybe that's your style and that's cool, but like at the same time you have to mix it up. Like you want to get a shot of you facing the camera, and then you want to get a shot facing away from the camera, get a close up of something, like mix things up. Like you can still do it exactly how you would normally do something, like you're fishing, but just film it 5 different angles.
Right.
Because then you have more variety for the viewer.
Yeah, it makes it way more dynamic. There's one thing that I said, it's hard to pull out the camera sometimes, especially when things are hard, which is oftentimes the best time to film.
100%.
But I never regret afterwards pulling out the camera and filming it.
Even if you don't use it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I still did it. I'm proud of myself for pulling out the camera in a moment that I probably shouldn't have pulled out the camera.
Right.
Like logistically.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That would be like the biggest thing. Like,
Yeah.
just create stuff. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the quality. Just create it.
Yeah, just get started. Do something that's true to yourself, as opposed to trying to be like something else, or as opposed to trying to make something that you think people would like.
Right.
Think about it, something that is true to yourself, and hopefully that resonates with people, because that's when you get the real stuff. And everybody, there's so much stuff being bombarded to people on social media, multiple platforms, whatever, streaming and everything like that, that people are kind of can sort of tell now when something more easily what's kind of authentic and what isn't.
Right. And like be water with it too. Like you have to be able to adapt. Like if you're on a trip and something's not going right, it's kind of like the best part. You're giving yourself a plot of something, like if you're getting frustrated by, the logistics of the camera side of things, like that's going to show in the video too. So like you kind of have to just be able to adapt. Like I keep relating back to the Socotra, but like we had so many things and challenges that happened on that trip that like the video isn't even remotely what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But I think it's better because of that. Like it makes it more interesting. And like the viewer's never going to know what was going to be the video or what is the video.
Right.
They just see the product of what it is and they think it's amazing because it's you made it.
Right.
So like it's not like they didn't know that I wanted to get this shot like an hour earlier for sunrise, and they didn't know that like, this shot was like seamed together from a different location and like whatever. Like
sometimes you have to lie to tell the truth, they say, especially, when you're doing what you're doing, that kind of shoot. When sometimes I feel bad if I'm trying to like, if I have to use a shot from somewhere else to tell the story about what I'm doing right now, because it's supposed to be 100% real. If you're shooting a commercial, like it doesn't really, nobody's expecting all this to be 100% real,
Well, at the end of the day, you just want to tell the best story. Like you want to make the best product.
Right.
So like this is going to help make the best product. And like, I think that that's valuable because it's not like you're like lying and not telling the truth. You're just emphasizing things that happened, but like, you're not going to be able to tell the difference if it was a kilometer away or if it was right here, unless it was very specific. But
yes, but most of the time people can't. But it was actually Flaherty, I think Robert Flaherty, who was the guy who was an early filmmaker, who actually said sometimes you have to lie to tell the truth. So he was actually traveled across the Angava Peninsula via the Payne and Leaf Rivers with 2 Inuit guys by dog team. He was famous for shooting Nanook of the North. It was like a black and white film where he went out and he just filmed all this crazy wicked footage of Inuit people doing all these like things where at that time was just like, was so removed and fascinating to people because they were still living that traditional lifestyle and very much so at the time. But then he pieced all that footage together into a story that could have been a story of, Nanook's life,
Right.
But wasn't really. But just all the shots were real of people really doing stuff. Do you know what I
100%.
mean? Yeah.
Well, you're just telling a story. At the end of the day, you're just a
Right.
storyteller, and like what's gonna, bring the audience the most joy watching it. I think that's a big piece too. Like you have to be true to like what you like to do, obviously, but what is someone gonna just like find the most interesting? Like what brings them the most joy watching? Like, I think that there's just so much value in like being able to tell the story. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like chronologically correct necessarily,
Right on.
even though it is most of the time.
Yes. Oh yeah. For me, 100. Yeah, almost always is.
Almost
I
exclusively,
shoot,
actually.
Yeah. I shoot a lot of stuff. It's
But it makes
absolutely.
sense because it's a point A to point B. Like you're going somewhere. Like it's a destination. Where like a lot of videos, they're not point A to point B. So it genuinely doesn't matter if it's in chronological order because it's not even being put together that way at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Cool. Well, is there anything, any future projects that you got going that you're excited about, or anything that you would like to point people towards? We talked about your Instagram. Any other sort of social media or things you got going?
I think everything can be linked through my Instagram. I think that's where I'm most active.
Website at all? Or
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me on the website, it's just kylepoolemedia.com.
Yeah.
But again, it's linked through my Instagram, so we'll keep that in the bio so everyone can get there. But the film in Socotra, I'd love if everyone watch that just to like.
Where can people see that?
I'll link it again in my Instagram and website.
Okay.
But if you just type in Socotra on YouTube, I'm pretty sure it's probably one of 4 videos that is even on YouTube about it. So
Yeah. How do you spell Socotra?
SOCOR Socotra. OTRA. SOCOTRA.
You're editing this, so.
Yeah, that's true. I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, Kyle, it was awesome to have you
Thank
on
you so
the
much.
podcast, man. Really appreciate it. Fun.
Thank you.
Good talk, man.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
been a blast.